The 7 survivors returned to the guest house once again. By now, it was clear that those who went outside would not be able to return alive. Rudolph's group had gone out holding 2 guns and 1 master key, but those had been lost. It was more than clear by now that they have been stolen by the culprit. Since the windows were closed with the shutters, they wouldn't open even if the culprit had the master key. They sealed the front door and all the doors to the outside with chains, and further blocked them with sofas and tables. Even if the culprit decided to break in through violent means, it wouldn't be easy for them. At this point, the typhoon may actually be fortunate. If it were clear outside, it might have been possible for them to set fire to the guest house. If there wasn't a typhoon in the first place, the boat would have arrived before noon. I'm not sure you can call that cloud a service, that a cloud servant's lining. Eva-san, how are you feeling physically? Please try take it easy. Thank you. I still have a temperature, but now it isn't the time for saying things like that. Now it's not the time to be stuck in bed, for the children's sakes as well. After crying so much in front of Hideyoshi's body, Eva had now gained a strong self-awareness that she was a mother, and her expression conveyed a strong will. Actually, her fever still hadn't gone down, and she was aware of that. Whenever she wasn't galvanizing herself, she felt the fever starting to make her mind hazy again. By this point, the first floor was a final line of defense made by Kraus, Natsui, and Eva. The children and the guest, Nanjo, have been strongly warned not to carelessly come downstairs. If the culprit used a ladder or something, it probably wouldn't be impossible for them to attack from upstairs, but it wouldn't be easy for them to break those sturdy shutters from such an unstable position. It was comparatively safer upstairs compared to downstairs. Butler and George had hoped to remain downstairs as well to fight in the worst case scenario, but Eva had rejected that. In her mind, George was now her only family. Ci credo. It seems that she didn't even want to expose him to the danger of coming downstairs to the first floor. Kraus and Natsui could also understand that feeling. Decisamente Jover non la perdonerà per aver ucciso Hideyoshi. A great deal of time had now passed since they once again barricaded themselves in. In the cousins' rooms upstairs, Butler, George, and Jessica were sitting dazed, their ears not even registering the TV that had been left on. For a while, Nanjo had been with them and had tried to send them words to cheer them up, but they had realized that he might actually be having the opposite effect. He disappeared into his own upstairs sub-room. Aspetta. But when he realized... Ok, bah. Eh sì, stavolta è Jessica quella che c'è ancora tutti e 2 i genitori. Vediamo per quanto tempo. Non mi ricordo chi muore, non mi ricordo perché manca ancora un po' di gente. Ne manca ancora, vediamo se rimangono. Sai cosa? Sarebbe mica figo se rimanesse una famiglia intera alla fine. Tipo tra i 5 rimanenti, Kraus, Natsui, Jessica e poi altri 2. Butler, perché non penso che lo uccidono. E non lo so. George, spero per... Ah no, deve rimanere anche Eva. Ah merda. E allora Eva e George? Vabbè. George kept looking dazedly at the photographs inserted in his notebook. They were from that time he had taken a vacation at Okinawa with Shannon, immaginavo. Shannon's happy smile was contained in those photographs. George could remember the temperature and the humidity, the warmth and the strength of the wind. And even when he had been talking about and even what he had been talking about with her at the time those pictures had been taken, as clearly as though it had been yesterday. So to George, they weren't simply photos, but a door to bring back warm memories. In this room, even though the sound of the typhoon and the TV should have entered George's hearing, it was the scenery of Okinawa he had seen with her and her laughing voice that reached his eyes and his ears. After meeting Shannon, George had made the decision to be reborn. He had sworn to separate himself from the thieving person he once had been, easily caught up in the atmosphere, unable to refuse a request, and easily used by those around him. He had resolved himself to become a strong man who would make her life even more joyous. So, if he hadn't met Shannon, the man called Ushiromiya George would probably have lived a very different life. And the George of that different life surely wouldn't have been as excellent as a man as he was now. The way he was now, it was for the sake of Shannon. But if that Shannon was now gone, he found himself wondering why he exists. Isn't it completely meaningless? A deep, deep sadness, as though he himself had become empty. That feeling had tormented him the whole time. However, until Butler had told him he hadn't been aware of the feeling himself, anzi che Butler ha fatto quel discorso minchia da ceffoni, tipo sì, a me sono morti i genitori, ma a te è morta, sì, un genitore, ma è morta Shannon, la persona con cui tu avresti dovuto passare tutta quanta la vita, sì, è sempre brutto quando qualcuno muore, ma bisogna vedere anche il potenziale, tutto. George fa, grazie Butler, non lo sapevo, grazie per avermelo detto. He finally remembered that he should have cried much, much more. And so he had cried, just like Butler, he had cried himself dry. By now, his eyes were bright red and swollen, and he could not cry anymore. So George did his best to change his way of thinking. He decided to think that he was not meaningless, that he should that he should be grateful to Shannon for giving him such a character. Dead lives are not revived. He would have to get over being separated from his beloved. If he were to come after Shannon by killing himself, she would surely be deeply, deeply dejected. It would be the same the other way around too. If he had died and Shannon chased after him, throwing away her own life, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. So he chose to surpass his emotions of sadness and anger, and decided to thank her. Meeting Shannon had made his days rich and full, and he had taught him the meaning of working hard for other people's sakes. As a result, she had shaped him into the person he had wanted to be. He thought he should thank her for that. By doing that, he tried to quell his sadness. But each time he did, he remembered Shannon's smile. He knew it, logically. He understood that grieving any more than this would only make her grieve in heaven. Yet he couldn't stop his sadness. Oh. Far mi uccide. Far è una di quelle canzoni che mi fa proprio salire le lacrime in automatico. Per quanto non sia il più grande fan di George, come personaggio è una cosa carina alla fine. No, è più carina Shannon. È proprio dolce. Why do people keep dying? Why does people dying make us this sad? Butler muttered. It was as though he was speaking on behalf of all humans. He probably hadn't been asking anyone, but Jessica answered. Partings are always sad, no matter what they're like. But when, for example, the person is old and there's some time it's going... Scusatemi. Or there's some time it's going to happen, when it is expected in advance, and you know it's a farewell that must become sooner or later. You can spend a long time softening the blow of that sadness. Sudden misfortune is probably sad because you aren't allowed even that. I see. Yeah. Sure, if they get sick or something and end up bedridden in a hospital for several years, you might be able to ready yourself for it bit by bit. But when it happens suddenly, someday, you don't have that much time. That sadness we should normally spend several years softening closes in on you all at once. No wonder it's tough. Sometimes it might even cause a sadness great enough to leave a scar for life. Enough to leave a scar for life, you say? Word end. Che succede adesso, Butler? It's like grandfather's occult hobby. That was what they whispered about it. That maybe Beatrice was his lover who died a long time ago, and he was so sad that he couldn't pull himself together. And that's why he started sacrificing the rest of his life to the research of the occult, in order to revive the dead. That's what they said. That's what they say. In that case, grandfather succeeded in that miracle in his last moments. The culprit would be the revived Beatrice, with grandfather being reunited with her. At that moment he was killed. Pretty ironic that he revived her only then to be killed by her. Onestamente non penso che gli spiaccia tanto a Kinzo, sembra proprio quel tipo di persona che fa... Beh, l'abbiamo visto quando si è rincontrato con Beatrice in episodio 2. Beh, ti ho rincontrata, sono felice, mangiatemi.
それでもおじい様は会えたんだろうね。人生の半分を閉じてもう一度会いたいと願った女性に。
Even so, grandfather was probably able to meet her. He gambled half of his life, and even though it was only for a short time, he was probably reunited with the woman he wished to see once again. Except he got totally roasted. Probably wanted a bit more than that out of a half-life of research. I wouldn't say that. Even if it was only for an instant, grandfather must have been happy to be reunited with the woman he loved. Even if his sin of denying life's providence was punished by God, and his body was burned and sent down to hell. And even if the reunion he got in return only lasted a very short time. I wouldn't care if I met with the wrath of God and had my body burned. Even if it was just for a short amount of time. If I could revive Shannon again, I would sacrifice the rest of my life to the same research as grandfather. 5 minutes would be enough. I just want to talk with Shannon again. Even 1 minute would be fine. In exchange, I wouldn't mind sacrificing the rest of my life. When Butler and Jessica realized that their pointless discussion was hurting George, they had no choice but to shut their mouths. George directed his thoughts at Kinzo's life. I saw him sacrifice half of his life to research that no one could understand, and on the last day of his life, he revived the person he loved most, and probably succeeded in his reunion in his final moments. I don't know how much time they were able to spend together. I don't know whether they were given an hour or just 5 minutes. However, in that moment, all of that time he had sacrificed for his research must have been rewarded. Even though he spent decades to gain it, that small amount of time must have been enough to reward him. Until today, I never believed in the occult or magic or anything. Somewhere in my heart, I even made fun of grandfather's research as nothing more than an indulgence. However, I won't make fun of it anymore. No, to the contrary, I strongly believe that it does exist. If that power of belief can become miracles, I'll probably throw away all of my studies up until today and spend the rest of my life from today onwards studying magic. Give me the power of magic, and a miracle which lets me meet Shannon again. George Trice.
ごめんよみんな。
Sorry, you two.
僕もどうかして。
I must be going
魔
mad.
法で死者が蘇る
If you
くらい
could
だったら
revive the dead with
世界
magic,
中の人々が
people will
魔法を
probably be
学ぶだろう。
studying it everywhere around the world.
でも
But things like that
現実にはそんなことはない。
don't exist in
誰
reality.
も学ばない。
No one studies
死
it.
者が魔法では
That's
蘇らない
because they know that the dead can be brought back with magic.
ごめんよ。
Sorry for saying
妙なことを
such
言い出
weird
して。
things.
僕のせいで
It's my fault that the atmosphere here had gotten so
みん
strange.
なだって辛いだろう。
Sorry for making you worried about
気
me,
を使わせて。
even though this is hard on everybody. Even though I did it to divert myself from my sadness, maybe I did say something strange. If I kept talking about something so weird, I'm sure it won't heal their sadness. But even so, that doesn't mean that I can withstand this silence.
僕は下に行って
I'll go downstairs and get a cup of coffee.
うちのお母さん
My mother is very
コーヒー
particular
の入れ方
about
には
how
こ
to
だわり
make
が
a
あるんだ
cup
よ
of coffee.
みんなもおかわ
Does
りは
anyone
いいかい
want a refill? Butler and Jessica lightly shook their heads. Without being any more persistent than that, I took my mug and left the room. I took, quindi stiamo guardando dalla parte di George? Il narratore George? Sì, I did visit Dr. Nanjo's room to ask whether he wanted any more coffee as well, but he too said that he didn't want any more. It seems as though my mother's orthodox method of making coffee wasn't universally appreciated. One time I had Shannon drink some that I brewed by that method, but she told me that while it was delicious, it was a little strong, if I remember her words.
シャノン
It's no good. Even though I left the room to change my mood, that image of Shannon's face that filling my head hasn't faded in the slightest. The fun days I shared with her were becoming more and more vivid, and I felt saddened that I was not even allowed to see her dead face. Oddio, Moon è nuova? Non ricordo, un'altra di quelle tristi comunque. According to our parents, it seemed as though she was killed with something like a gun or a spear. I'm sure they were just trying to console me, but they said that her face in death had been very beautiful and peaceful. I wonder if she's wearing the engagement ring I gave her last night. Non posso commuovermi adesso. If she accepted my engagement, she should have it on a ring finger on her left hand. Last night our heads were both full of each other and we weren't composed at all. Shannon had accepted the engagement semi-boldly, but she might have regretted that as a harsh action once she cooled her head. She might have taken the ring off. I wonder if she has the ring on now. I at least want to be sure of that much. I want to know her final feelings. George, non farà stronzata. However, even if I do check that, it's not as she'll be revived. I wonder what will happen to her body. After the autopsy, it will probably be immediately cremated. Then I'll never be able to see her face, even her dead face, for all eternity. Because of the shock of losing Shannon, I'm going a little crazy. I don't want Shannon's body to be burned. If she's burned, she'll turn to ash and never again will it be possible for her to revive. They say that cremation is disliked in the Western tradition because on the day of resurrection there will be no body to revive. Because of that, it seems that great criminals in Western history were often cremated after execution as a punishment, and their ashes were sometimes scattered in rivers and such. In other words, to Western people, death is nothing more than a sleep until the resurrection. it is essential that the corpse is left after death.
つまりそれは
In other words,
死者が蘇る奇跡の存在を知っていたからなんだ。
that's because Western people knew of the existence of a miracle to revive the dead.
日本にはその奇跡がなかったから。
Vabbè. But that miracle didn't exist in Japan, so we burned them. Now I understand. I understand why grandfather idolized the Western occult. From the beginning, it had all been only for that reason, just to revive the person dear to him. Grandfather spent the rest of his remaining life researching the Western occult. The situation surrounding us right now was abnormal. Grandfather had revived his beloved Beatrice, and that Beatrice had carried out a terrible serial murder, with chains of locked rooms that were impossible without the use of magic. The Golden Witch Beatrice, the incarnation of the miracle of the Western occult, and also the culprit who killed Shannon. I should hate that being, and yet, for some reason, I want to cling to the hope that she represents. I wonder if she could use that miraculous magic that grandfather spent his life exposing to revive Shannon. According to the Ushiromiya family legend, grandfather met with her long ago and was given a vast quantity of gold. Then, if I also met her, instead of gold, would she give me Shannon's life? In return, she could impose any kind of devil's contract. For that, I would sacrifice all of my remaining life. George probably couldn't have believed or noticed that right behind him, the witch herself stood, listening to his voiceless wish. Beatrice had been listening to everything George and the others had to say since their discussion just now in the cousins' rooms. Butler had told her that she didn't know the weight of a human life, and wanting to understand that in her own way, she had stealthily visited and listened to their discussion. You say that is your wish. If I could grant that, maybe I would be accepted as a witch. Beato looked at the palms of both of her hands. She had handed over most of her previously surging magic power when the new witch had succeeded the name of Endless Witch. Of course, even now, her magic power still made her worthy of being called a witch, but it did not even compare to her previous strength. Even without the endless magic, I am a great witch whose name has thundered through 1,000 years. Reviving the dead is no problem at all. Inside her head, she thought about several magic methods for reviving the dead. Even magic that she could do easily in the past would be difficult with her current magical power. She thought of something, then clicked her tongue and repeated this several times. In the end, she finally thought of a single spell. But that was a spell that she couldn't use by herself. It was a spell that witches with weak power used, that relied on the aid of others. In the past, Beato had looked down upon that type of magic. Therefore, she frantically tried to think if there wasn't any other possible spell, but in the end, she couldn't think of one, and slumped over in self-derision. And then, careful not to surprise him, she softly called out, softly, to George's heart. Ushiromiya George, can you hear my voice? I can hear. Who are you? Are you really the witch, Beatrice? Or else are you an illusion created by my sadness? If it is the former, I want you to hear my wish.
そして後
And
者
if it's
か
the
ら
latter, just leave me alone.
僕をそっとしておいてほしい。
Conversation in the worlds of the mind are a lot like those in a dream. When you dream, haven't you had the experience of casually and accepting something that would have been absurd in the real world? The conversation in this world was like that. So even though a witch appeared and started talking to George, he was not surprised. I am the Golden Witch, Beatrice. Normally, you and I would not be able to talk like this. However, you are strongly conscious of me and wish to have a discussion. So, both of our channels are able to match like this.
シャノンを殺したのがあなたなのか、あなたを名乗る何
お
者かの仕
新たなムジカ
業なのか、僕はどうでもいい。
The person who killed Shannon. I don't care if it was you or someone else taking on your
ただあ
name,
なたが
as long as you
本当の魔
exist
女と
as
して
a
存
real
在してい
witch.
るならば、どんな対価にも
I
応じる。
would pay any
僕の
compensation.
命を望
If
む
you
なら
desire my life, you can
今
take
す
it
ぐに
right
捧げて
now.
もいい。どうかシャノンを
Please. I want you to bring back Shannon to life.
それが無理なら
If that's impossible, then at least I would like just to be allowed to talk to her for a short while.
お願いだ。
Please. I require no compensation. I shall grant that wish.
本当に
Really?
本当に
You really bring Shannon? However, my current magical power is not sufficient to use resurrection magic. Therefore, I must rely on your help.
僕にできることなら
If there's something I can do, I'll do anything.
それが
Even if that means taking my heart out right here and now, I won't hesitate.
僕は躊躇しない。
I'm not telling you that I don't require something like that. No, I'm telling you that I don't require something like that. I may cast the spell, then a gap would open in the door of Hades. But as I am now, I do not have the power to bring back Shannon's souls up through that gap. However, if it were you who has strong feelings for Shannon, you should be able to change those feelings into magic and bring her soul out without fail. What do you say? Will you help me?
手伝うとも。
Of course I
シャノ
will.
ンの命が
If
蘇るな
Shannon's
ら
life would
僕
be
は何を
revived,
失うことも
I
恐れ
am
ない。
I am not afraid to lose everything. George's fist shook in silence. Then he slowly regained consciousness. He had been absent-mindedly standing near the window in the hall for the whole time, his mug still in his hand. And the witch from his dream was still there. But that
そんな。
it isn't a dream?
ゆ
Be quiet. I am very fragile right now. If any more humans appear now, I will not be able to preserve this form. I shall grant you your wish, so stay silent for now. Is that alright? George covered his mouth with both hands, forcefully nodding several times. As he did, he almost dropped the mug he was holding. George frantically juggled it around and caught it. He was afraid that if it fell to the floor and made a loud sound, the witch's form might disappear like bubble popping. He softly set the mug on the floor, and he stared once again at the witch in front of him. Her form didn't disappear, it wasn't a dream. Come, let's go to the parlor where Shannon sleeps. With the power of your feelings, we will bring back her soul.
行くって
You say go, but how?
下には母さん
My
たち
mothers and the others are
表
downstairs.
へ出るのを許して
There's
くれる
no
わけが
way
ない
they let me go outside.
それにあなたはさっ
And
き
didn't you just say that you wouldn't be able to preserve your form if another human appeared? Come to think of it, that's true. So Kraus and the rest are downstairs. In that case, we definitely cannot go down. Well then, we just need to go to the mansion without going downstairs, right? It's simple. Beato laughed as though she thought of a pleasant prank. and with her golden pipe she lightly tapped the window with its shutter closed. When she did, 3 gold butterflies appeared from the pipe and opened the lock on the window as though melting it. Then the window opened without a sound. The shutter beyond it was exactly the same. The clasp unset itself also without making a sound, and it quietly opened. The window opened, exposing the wind and the rain outside the mansion. Perhaps because of the direction of something related to the construction of the building, the wind did not blow inside. Because of that, for a while, George felt as though this entrance opening to the outside was a dream or illusion, and he couldn't accept it as real. Come, let's go. Come with me. Beato gently floated upwards. It was a natural action like that of a diver enjoying an underwater stroll, but he made it easy to believe that if you acted like she did, you too might be able to float in the sky just as though you were swimming in the water. No, George did believe that. So, without thinking, just as she had done, he also gently, as though swimming in the water, he moved his feet. Okay, he moved his feet. Okay. Oh, not bad. So you learn how to dance through the sky faster than I couldn't explain it. George was shocked to find himself floating in midair like he was swimming. Of course, Beato was also shocked that George, who should have been unacquainted with magic, had to learn how to do that just by instinct. To be able to fly in the air, swim in the air. You must not think of the logic. Accept it as a natural thing. You must not think upon the human doctrines such as those from Newton and Einstein, especially when flying high in the sky. Inexperienced witches sometimes fall. I accept this as true. Accept it as true. George repeated those words over and over. He must not deny magic, no matter what. To deny that would be the same as to throw away what might be, its first and last chance to revive Shannon. However, compared to Beato, who was elegantly drifting like smoke, George's movements were clearly similar to someone underwater. Therefore, he didn't make a movement like kicking his feet in water every once in a while. He would be slowly dragging down. Therefore, if he didn't make a movement like kicking his feet in the water every once in a while, he would be slowly dragged down by the force of gravity. I shall praise this as being a better performance than the first time I danced in the sky. Here we go. Come with me. Beato beckoned to George and gently flew into the stormy sky. It was just like a scene from a fairy tale. The scene unfolding before George's eyes felt entirely like an extension of his dream. Being able to fly is incredible, but so is the wind and the rain. What's this? What wind are the wind and rain tormenting you? I could teach you a magic to block against that, but it may be too early for you. It may be a misuse of the time right now. Yes, the magic I need isn't that. Without losing to the wind and rain, George wore a strong-willed gaze. The mansion is coming into sight. Hold out just a little longer. If you fall now, you'll hit the bushes in the rose garden. The undulating rose garden was spread beneath the witch and George's gazes. The fantasy-like scene no longer surprised George. Only the gradually approaching mansion was reflected in his eyes. Shannon, wait for me. I will definitely revive you. George Trice, subito, molto... un talento naturale, signor Giorgio. Ecco. Andava troppo bene, andava troppo bene. Meanwhile, the cruel new witch could be seen staring at the guest house from a different location. Now all that's left is the 7th and the 8th twilight. Just 2 more, and my obligation to the predecessor hag is finished. I'll kill Kraus and Natsui together like a happy couple. How are the targets? In the lobby on the first floor of the guest house, both targets and Ushiromi Eva acquired. Measuring anti-magic power. Data link to 410. 410, data received. Anti-magic power is extremely low. If Eva just goes outside, they're tuna and abalone on a chopping board. What would you ask of us, great Lady Beatrice? If you give the order, we will snipe right away. Please, your orders. You guys are really convenient furniture. Very different from the old second-hand furniture, which has only enough talent to gouge corpses. Right? Siesta sisters, please, show me your skill again. Prepare to attack. Carry the corpses out again, alright? Cause I'll play with them a lot. No complaints, okay, Ronove? Yes, certainly. At that time, the witch noticed something, as though some presence had disappeared. Was it her imagination? Did you feel some kind of presence just now? Did any of you feel it? My apologies, I didn't notice anything. Please forgive me. We're in the middle of observing the guest house, so our peripheral surveillance was turned off. What about you, Lucifer-chan? Did you feel a presence? Just for an instant, Lucifer sent a glance at Ronove, questioning whether she should answer honestly or not. Ronove gave a small nod in response. No, my apologies, Beatrice-sama. Nothing from us. Forgive us for this stupidity, as we're only second-hand furniture. I see. If a great demon like you says that it must have been my imagination. The witch stared persistently in the direction that the present had disappeared to. That was the direction of the rose garden, and beyond that, she could see the mentioned dark silhouette created by lightning. It took her quite some time before she pushed her unsatisfied feeling aside and once again turned to face the guest house. Ah, ok, adesso è finito. Beh, l'altra volta non l'avremmo potuto finire, un 40 minuti di lettura abbiamo fatto. Sono le 5:44, Real Magic. The guest house lobby had been engulfed by silence. The strings of tension which bound Kraus, Natsui and Eva had already loosened. They were completely tired, and their consciousness was beginning to waver. Every once in a while they would stand up and walk around pointlessly, fighting their drowsiness. You're right, Eva-san. Please, do take it easy and rest. I told you, I'm fine. The rest of us are now the only adults, and Anjo, anche lui. There's no time to rest. I'll guard this place even if I have to go through hell and high water. Ecco. E adesso si sta muovendo di nuovo Evatrice. E allora, ecco. She spoke a brave line, but she couldn't hide her rough breathing. It seems that the fever, which had been calmed with medicine for a time, had returned. And it was very obvious that Eva's condition was not good. Don't push yourself. At least close your eyes. If we have to wake you, we definitely will. I'm telling you that I'm fine. Leave me alone. It seems that she had now become stubborn. Kraus and Natsu realized that no matter what else they said to her, in her current state, it wouldn't reach her ears. Suo ruggente respiro. Sembra più un maiale quello. So they decided not to say nothing more, and to leave her be. To Eva, right now, even an argument like that was putting a burden on her. It would probably be better for her if she just sat there with her mouth closed. As a matter of fact, Eva was already on the point of succumbing to her drowsiness. She might have talked back with a temper because she was trying to encourage herself and throw off the sleepiness. The clock would very soon be pointing to 6 in the afternoon. Because she had been snacking over and over again to fool her drowsiness, she didn't feel hungry. But instead, her lack of sleep made her feel like it was 6 in the morning rather than in the afternoon. Even supposing that the boat would come at precise 9 in the morning tomorrow, ok, se volete bene, there was still more than 12 full hours to go. That was a dizzyingly long stretch of time. Long, painful, hot. Even the sound of the clock torments my body now. In times like this, he would put his hand on my forehead, and the fever would always fade at once. But he isn't here anymore. As Eva's mind grew foggy, she was once again gripped by a deep sadness. She had already cried herself dry. Even so, the sadness for losing her beloved husband had not been exhausted. I was wrong. Why? Originally, the new witch had been the same being as Eva. If Eva talked to her, she would always respond. If I could only get the position of family head, that was always enough. But as soon as I saw that mountain of gold, my greed grew. I was struck with a desire to have that mountain of gold all to myself. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. After all, it is your natural right as the Ushiromiya family head. How could you give up even a bit of it to anyone else? I was gripped by that temptation, which is why you were born. While you are at the heart of my young self, at the same time you are also my sense-centered evil heart. It's my foolish greed which sprouted thanks to that mountain of gold that allowed you to break out of the shell of my heart and be born in this world. I'm to blame for giving birth to you. In that case, when I killed Rosa and Maria, and then Rudolph, Kirin, and Hideyoshi, you were to blame for that too. Why did you kill my husband too? I didn't want to kill Hideyoshi. He was just so annoying and persistent. That's your fault. It's your fault for choosing a husband like that. A child like you can possibly understand how good he was. Oh, come on. Our dreams were made real with magic, right? We solved the riddle of the epitaph, and we found the gold and got the head's ring. All of our dreams came fully true, right? What more could you want? Those weren't the only dreams I had. Living a wonderful life with that man. And entrusting George with an excellent life. I still have so many dreams that I need to fulfill. As a wife, as a mother. And yet, those are just extra dreams you gain after becoming an adult. They aren't our dreams. And that's why you're a child. It only matters what you get when... it only matters that you get what you want. That's right. All of this is my fault. Back then, when did I resist doing what Rosa told me to? Why couldn't I just announce to all the siblings that I have found the gold? It's also because of the ugliness in my heart. My evil heart, which sprouted out the desire to have all the gold for myself, caused you to hatch. I don't see why I deserve that much hate, even though the both of us together make up Ushiromiya Eva. No, that isn't true anymore. And it was you who said it. I am Ushiromiya Eva, and you are the Golden Witch, Beatrice. So just disappear already. So just disappear already. Witches are a delusion, a fantasy that can only exist in fairy tales. Just disappear! Don't ever show yourself to me again. Oh? So that's how it is. Alright. I'll disappear from your sight. And I am no longer Ushiromiya Eva. From now on, I am the Golden Witch, Beatrice. So now, I will play however I want. I'm done caring about you. Why don't you just give up and die forever? After having a fittingly childlike tantrum, the witch who had once been another Eva vanished. Only Eva was left behind in the darkness. And she questioned herself. Was it me? I killed them. Did I kill that person? Did I kill him? Now, the question was one she herself would never answer. Ecco, che sta succedendo, Eva? It seems that, half asleep, she had gotten some saliva caught in her windpipe, just as she was dozing off. Eva suddenly started coughing. Are you alright, Eva? Natsui, some water, please. Yes. I'm alright. I'm alright, okay. Just choked a bit, that's all. Eva pushed away Natsui's hand as she tried to rub her back and unsteadily rose to her feet. I'm going to wash my face. Sorry, I fell asleep. When I get back, I'll make some more coffee. Extra strong, so we won't get drowsy until tomorrow morning. Please do. Your coffee fits my taste just more than... Mamma mia. Please do. Your coffee fits my taste more than the one Goda makes. Pleased to hear that. Even if you're just flattering me. I'll be back soon. Eva exited the lobby, heading for the lavatory. Kraus and Natsui watched over her frail back. So, you do sometimes care for Eva-san, even though you have always been so much at odds with her. Properly speaking, isn't this what an older brother should do? Yes, I believe it is. Just not Eva, Rudolph, and Rosa too. The only ways in which I have acted like an older brother to them was... Non è momento acqua fredda, non ancora. Not just Eva, Rudolph, and Rosa too. The only ways in which I have acted like an older brother to them are to speak arrogantly and bully them. In my own ways, I was frantic in my desire to be like father, but I could never match up, and I always vented my feelings on them. However, that is no excuse. I probably scarred Eva so deep that it still had not healed. I regretted, but even if apologizing after all this time, that would not heal her wounds, those wounds. If you hold on to that emotion and continue to hold on to it, I'm sure that feeling will come through to your siblings. To your siblings! È rimasta una. To your sibling, punto. Senza S, una ne è rimasta. Appunto. At this point, my only sibling left is Eva. If only the family you and your siblings were born into had not been the Ushiromiya family, you might have a more normal, a more fun sibling relationship. You mustn't say that. Eva will probably continue to hate me for her whole life, and she has the right to. I intend to resign myself to that and accept it. Dear Eva, I am sorry. Of course, you don't have to forgive me. Of course I won't. A bit late, don't you think? If you know you're in the wrong, why don't you just give up right now and forever? Do it, Chesta sisters! 45. Firing permissions received. Reconfirming firing curve. Correcting for weather. Data link to 410. 410. Data received. Firing permission confirmed. Firing. Together, the sisters released the readied magic bowstring. A beautiful tail trailed the golden arrow, and it drew a beautiful curve as it flew. It was just like a golden snake. It skillfully avoided a grove of trees and flew towards the front of the guest house. Then it flew into the keyhole of the door and snuck into the guest house without any problems at all. The gold snake raced down the hall smoothly, yet as fast as an arrow. Right in front of it was the door to the lobby. It would only need to fly into that keyhole, and Kraus and Natsui would be right there. For an instant, Kraus thought he saw the door keyhole sparkle gold. However, at the time he strained his eyes to see what it was, that sparkle bent like a whip and attacked, wrapping itself around Kraus's neck. Just looking at it, the gold snake looked very supple. However, it was as though a wire had tightened around Kraus's neck. And while the snake choked Kraus, it extended even more and also tightened around Natsui's neck. Without even the chance to scream, their eyes bulged as they went into convulsion and then collapsed. 45. Hit and kill confirmed. Forming towing curve, correcting adjustment points. Data link to 410. 410. Data received. Initiating corpse towing. Two on the line, on once? The gold snake began to drag Kraus and Natsui corpses back. It slipped through the door in the corridor, dragging the corpses, gradually increasing in speed. And in the blink of an eye, it had pulled them outside to the guest house. So the lobby was still, as though nothing had happened at all. As though Kraus and Natsui had never been there to begin with. Only the sound of the wind and the rain remained, as though feigning ignorance and pretending that they had been the only ones there. Sorry, I'm fine now. Now I'll make some coffee. Eva returned to the lavatory, but no one was in the lobby. As though they had been in that sofa until the very moment she had choked and gone to the lavatory, they had now gone, as if they had been an illusion from the beginning. Oh, aspetta. Era even though they have been... Ok, era even though, ho detto male. How careless. Where did those two go off together? Like she was pretending to be in a detective novel, Eva put her hand on the sofa. She felt a warmth, indicating that they have been sitting there until a short while ago. Maybe they had gone to do some rounds or something. For the time being, Eva sat down and waited for their return. Oh, that angle. Beato and George could be seen in the parlor of the mansion. George was kneeling near Shannon's body as though praying. His face was sincerity itself, and there was even a sweat on his forehead. However, Beato was the same. Now that she had handed her name over, most of her previous power had been lost. Of course, she still had more than enough power to be called a witch, but compared to the past, it was a very faint thing. Good. Don't talk to her. Don't touch her with your hand. Call to her with the voice of your heart. Seek her with the hand of your heart. Only your strong feelings can make my magic reach Shannon's lost soul. George maintained a single-minded focus. He kept frantically yelling inside his heart, trying to call back the soul of the person he loved. He strongly envisioned his soul leaving his body and searching for her as she wandered through hell. Povera, perché l'inferno, poverina. Beato turned that strong force into magical power, supplementing her own magic. It was magic that, in the past, she could have performed easily without anyone's help. But now, if she didn't rely on someone's help, she wouldn't be able to finish the chant, much less succeed. I have forgotten after several hundred years. Was magic, was resurrection always this difficult of a magic? An even more strained expression than George's had risen to Beato's face. She was still forgetting this, but the magic to revive a life is fundamentally the ultimate hidden heart. It was her previous magical power giving her the ability to use that magic over and over with a snap of a finger that was abnormal. Therefore, the heavy burden to her body and mind was, by rights, absolutely to be expected. However, the power this one has is quite considerable, even though he doesn't know magic. I see. So he truly is Kinzo's grandchild. The strong power pouring from George was even large enough to pass a magical power. Scusa. The strong power pouring from George was even large enough to pass as magical power. At first, Beato thought it was due to the blood of the mage Kinzo. However, that was probably wrong. She had a feeling that Butler had taught her that. George's power to feel sorrow for the death of his loved one arose from the way he had tried his hardest throughout his life, from the warm time he spent together with Shannon, and from the size of the shared dream promising each other their futures. Do humans really live this seriously during their one single life? Of course they do. To her, a life didn't mean anything more than a difference between the top and the bottom of an Othello piece. If the black represented death, then she thought all that you had to do was to flip it over again to make it white. However, it was just like a broken vase. To humans, in a world without magic, where they can never return to its original form, it is a very, very natural thing for them to bet all of their body and soul on that single life. So, there are times when an endless witch with full command over even life and death is inferior to a finite human, for whom even death's mountain is impossible to cross. Now, the witch acknowledged it. He was able to hold a magical power that could not reside in witches who didn't understand the value of life. What is this thing called the endless magic for again? Even though I called myself an endless witch, have I been forgetting what the endless magic means for a whole 1,000 years? She looked at George's expression again. His surging earnestness, okay. His surging earnestness was like a lightning bolt. Right now, even if George's body was burned or smashed by a waterfall, he would probably continue to pray for his beloved without minding it, without noticing it. For the first time, she showed respect for that power. Prontezza, earnestness. Giusto? Vediamo. La sua prontezza, sì, la sua crescente prontezza. Era come un fulmine a ciel sereno. Vabbè, un fulmine, basta. So in that instant, all magical resistance was lost, and the enormous power of George's feelings turned into magical power in its perfect form. Oh, ce l'hanno fatta? That vase was very, very beautiful, rich with history and value. Even as young as I was, it still forced me to take a deep breath when I witnessed its beauty. But that just made me want to touch it. But the vase easily fell and smashed into smithereens, like the popped bubble. It felt as though the time when it had possession of a form was just an illusion. It was that fragile, that easily lost, that life. I realized that because of my own foolish curiosity, I have done something that couldn't be taken back. No matter how much I regretted it, no matter how much I apologized, the broken vase will not return to its original form. A lost life will not return to normal no matter what happens. I was frightened by the fact that my own frivolous action, even though it had been frivolous, had stolen a life that could never be revived again. And out of pity for the lost life, I cried. Out of fear of myself, who have made it become lost, I cried even more. I was sure that grandfather would also cry at the loss of this precious vase. I was sure that all of the people who thought fondly of grandfather would cry too when they saw him like that. By just the loss of a single life, the whole world would be filled with so much sadness. I cried even more at how terrible that would be. Beatrice appeared and spoke. Then, milady, let us revive this vase with magic. If that will make everyone happy, then the vase and magic and the spirits should be happy to lend you their power and return it to its original form. Come, milady, close your eyes and say the chant with me. Come, try closing your eyes, and try to remember what form did you have. It was surely a very, very beautiful form. Please, show me that form one more time. La prossima è Umineko e dopo Cult of the Lamb. Those words of power powerfully knocked on the doors to Hades. Her previous magic had powerfully knocked on the doors to Hades in the same way. However, back then it was horribly violent and had the displeasure of the peacefully sleeping dead. However, this time was different. It was a very powerful, but it was very kind and loving. The dead near the door opened their eyes and called out to the dead called out to the other dead Mamma mia. The dead that were near the door opened their eyes and called out to the other dead that there was a voice calling for someone to come back. The sadness of that voice calling from the outside touched the hearts of the dead, and trying to respond as quickly as possible, they searched for Shannon's lost soul. Oddio, perché mi sta venendo a piangere? È questa canzone. And then they found it. They found the casket in which Shannon was peacefully sleeping. It truly was Shannon's soul sleeping in the dead land of the dead. Inside the casket that was covered with rose petals frozen with frost, she was sleeping in peace. The dead silently lifted that casket up. While it looked like a funeral march at a glance, it had the completely opposite meaning. It was solemn but filled with joy. It reminded the long-forgotten dead that they continue to be loved even after their deaths, and gave them a warm sense of peace. Then, as though guided by a warm light from the heavens, Shannon's body floated up out of the casket, and the dead watched her go. They squinted at the warm light, giving their respect to this unknown member of the living, who had continued to hold on to his love for a person even after her death. Shannon's body was sucked into the light, in the heavens, and began to disappear, and the jet-black darkness of the land of the dead, the faint flickering of gold butterflies could be seen. It reminded them of the gentle stars in the night sky, which they had long forgotten. George remembered being told that he must not say anything, and he hurriedly covered his mouth. However, he felt like his heart was trying to jump out of his throat, because he had seen Shannon's eyelids shake slightly. And then those eyelids slowly opened. Shannon's eyes were there, but they were still covered in the frost of the land of the dead. However, the warmth of the human world, no, the warmth of her loved one, who had called her soul back, slowly dissolved that frost, and her eyes gradually regained that sparkle. Then her eyes moved and recognized George. As her lips shook weakly, Shannon definitely said that. The words were very faint, so much so that they normally wouldn't even have reached his ears. However, George clearly heard them. He heard his loved one, his fiancée, the one he loved most, who should have been dead, call his name once again. Shannon, can you recognize me? Is this a dream? It isn't a dream. See, look. Even if I pinch you, you don't wake up. As George said that, he softly pinched Shannon's cheek. It was how George had always responded in the past when Shannon had been surprised by something and had asked if she was dreaming. When Shannon felt the warm touch of George's finger on her cheek, and when George realized that the warmth of a living person had already returned to the cheek of his beloved, they both cried. With what words should a pair of lovers separated by death celebrate their reunion? The words of the human world was not enough to celebrate that. In short, they had no need of the words of this world. Shannon sat up, and the two of them simply, wordlessly hugged each other. Shannon still didn't have much strength in her, and putting her arms around George's back took all she had. And so George hugged her tightly to make up for that. To stop her from ever again going to the place beyond his reach, he hugged her so tightly and yet so gently. Shannon's fingers curled around George's back, and on her ring finger indeed shone the engagement ring that George had given her. That strong sparkle was absolutely not the sparkle of a diamond alone. There was, without a doubt, magical power that only the two lovers could possibly feel. Guardiamo. No, conta ancora come morta. O si deve aggiornare. It was because that strong light existed that they have been able to find their casket in the land of the dead. Beato understood that ring, no. The couple's feeling in the form of that ring had created this miracle. In that moment, George had definitely used magic. Beato had done nothing more than to help him along. That magic had a magical power that could only reside in those who knew the importance of life and trying their hardest. It was the power of a miracle that an endless witch could not know, that only the power of the finite could give rise to. By now, she had no choice but to accept it. She had to accept that the true magic, the true magical power, existed in the place farthest away from she who called herself a great witch. She brought you back to life. Thank you, Beatrice. No, I could not do anything. What revived Shannon was your magical power, your magic. I have indeed witnessed here the Ushiromiya blood capable of achieving miracles. George-san was the one who brought... He had a phenomenal magic power, so much that I could not reach up to his feet. So I still have not left that level of apprentice then. Now I finally know my place. Beato staggered backwards. Her physical strength was clearly exhausted. She had humbly said that George's power alone had revived Shannon, but Beato had also used all of her magic and physical strength, and she reflected upon how difficult it was to revive a single one of these lives, which she had toyed with however she wanted in the past. The couple kept each other in their tight embrace and showed no signs of letting go. Feelings that could not be communicated with a billion words were thus communicated between them. Thank you, Beatrice. We are in your debt. Thank you very much, Beatrice-sama. I will never forget that it was you who let me meet with George again. Enough. Being thanked by a pair of lovers is far too embarrassing for the one who has been feared as an extreme savage. Don't worry about me. Take all the time you want, celebrating your reunion together. Beato, who was leaning her back against the wall, slid down the wall and sat. How many centuries had it been since she had lost as How many centuries had it been since she had last grown this tired from using magic? Probably not since the first time I succeeded in magic. Did the master praise me for that back then? Oh, but I myself killed that master who praised me, didn't I? Don't be naive, Beatrice. In the end, that's what it means to kill something, right? Finally. It seems you remember how to use magic. My whole head feels parched and suffocated. I can't even think, let alone remember. Wait, didn't I kill you? You shouldn't be appearing. You have let me live up until now. That's why I can appear like this. However, I did not come here to pat you on the head. Did you come here to sneer at how pathetic I am? And after all of this time, after retiring as a witch and everything, if I sit here and have my head patted, I'll be the laughing stock of all the other witches. That's right. Not only are you a full adult, but you boast about having retired from active service. So I am sure that it would be far too embarrassing to tell anyone that you only just now learned how to use magic. Yeah. Keep it a secret, master. With a sense of pleasant despondency, Beato gazed at the couple hugging each other. Love, huh? I'm no match. 45. Data received. Firing preparations complete. Ammo selected. Now loading. 410. Firing. The golden serpentine arrow fired by the Chesters waved its way through the bushes of the rose garden, waved its way through the hedges, and climbed the stone steps towards the mansion entrance, aiming for the keyhole. It weaved through the corridors. It flew into the keyhole in the door to the parlor. It happened in an instant. It would have been difficult for Beato, who was completely worn out, to have noticed it beforehand. Right before Beato's eyes, the gold snake that flew into the keyhole spun circles around the two lovers and pierced through their two hearts in a blink of an eye. And with meticulous precision, the gold snake ran through that hole in Shannon's chest once more. The two have been pierced through the heart by the gold snake, no, by the gold sewing thread used by the new brutal witch furniture. And it had only taken an instant, so unfitting for the amount of effort it had taken to revive Shannon. In front of Beato's shocked eyes, the two collapsed onto the floor. Thank you, Beatrice, for letting us meet, even if it was just for a short while. Thank you. George spent his last breath thanking Beato and died side by side with the one he loved. The gold snake, which still sewed the two in place, spun like a large cyclone revolving around inside the parlor. It was searching for further kills in that room. Then the tip of the snake met Beato's gaze. In that instant, Beato prepared herself for death. And just then, Virgilia took in front of her, the fingers of both her hands drawing a mark. In that instant, gold-colored gold leaf buried the inside of the parlor. It was like a blizzard of gold. Beato,
今のうちに
escape while you can.
シエスタの黄
No
金
one
球
can
からは
escape from the
誰も逃
siesta's
れられない
golden bow.
410標的
410, target lost. Yeah, magical chef.
45了解
45, understood.
索敵変更
Modifying enemy search, personal image homing algorithm.
再補足
Target acquired, data link to 410.
410データ
410, data received. Too slow, predecessor sama. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Impact! The sister's sister golden bow would not let its skill escape. It would not let them block it. No magical barrier could even dream of blocking it without being multi-layered. The weak point during the instant of confusion caused by Virgilia's deception magic was Beato's only chance to escape, and the only opportunity to make the sisters confuse Virgilia for Beato. As Virgilia spread her arms wide, blocking the way to her beloved disciple, the gold snake pierced through the location of her heart. The snake, which had snuck into the keyhole, shot through George and Shano and then shot through Virgilia in an instant. Completely failed to notice as Beato's escape. As soon as Virgilia saw that Beato had gotten away, she expired. The strength left her body, like the gold dust drifting with the wind. Her form was erased. Beato completely erased all trace of her magical power, became gold butterflies, and passed through the wall, escaping to the wind and the rain outside. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! You bitch! Beato felt sick from the bottom of her heart. Why? Because she had been attacked by the new... Why? Because she had been attacked by the new witch? Probably not. Of course, she also felt sick of the loss of her master, but even more than that, Beato was enraged at the barbarism which had boorishly stolen the union between the two reunited lovers. Beato had poured out almost all of her magical power to reunite them. That miracle had been achieved only as a result of that, yet it had been taken such a short time to steal it away. Beato trembled at the barbarous cruelty which had ended it so fast. And it was the true form of the acts she herself had committed up until that point. So, just as strongly as Beato hated the new witch, she looked at the previous self with disgust. But now she had to escape. If she was targeted next, she would probably lose her life. And it wouldn't even be funny if the chess player descended like a god, ended up being attacked by the killed by the pieces.
45
45. Impact confirmed. Target scattered. Without a doubt, we crushed the predecessor.
また私たちの撃
Our power kill meter is gonna get bigger yet again. Nyeh.
愛し合う二人
What was that about loving couples?
咲いて一
You get to enjoy them thrice. Once tearing the two apart, once reuniting them, and once again tearing them apart. Right?
そのついでに
I feel great about getting to say goodbye to that fussy as fuck old hag at the same time. Ronave, you don't have any complaints, right? Why, of course not, Beatrice-sama.
あいつは魔女の碑文の儀
She
式を
interfered with the ritual of the witch epitaph, you see? She revived the sacrifice from the first twilight without permission and interfered in my ritual.
文句言われる筋
No
合い
one has any right to complain.
しかしずるいな
Suck that she doesn't leave a corpse behind, though.
あのババアも
I was thinking of torturing that old hag to death over and over again endlessly. Voglio vedere se già contano il povero George.
ジョージが
Probabilmente come al solito finché non trovano il cadavere non conta come morto. Un secondo solo. Ci metto veramente un attimo. Devo solo sistemare una cosa, ma devo alzare in piedi per farlo. Bra 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 bra. Uah. Devo fare un cambio di pantaloni perché i jeans che ho addosso sono un po' scomodi a stare seduti sulla sedia. Just a moment. Oh là. Oh, molto bene. Molto bene. Here I am. Uff. Lo comincio a dire anche io, come Siester 410. George said
来てないわよ
he didn't show up. When did he come down? When?
俺は
What time was that again?
確か
I think it was about 4 or 5.
最低でも
It was at least an hour ago.
俺たち
We got sleepy and probably dozed off after that.
でも多分
But I think Jessica probably has it
1
right.
時間か2時間くらい前だった
About 1 or 2 hours ago.
私もその
I also remember it being around that time.
日のおかわり
Because I was asked whether I wanted more coffee. Something hard to believe had happened. Apparently, when Auntie Eva had left for a second to visit the laboratory, Uncle Kraus and Anton Natsui had disappeared. There was no way they went hiding somewhere. Of course, the door and the windows had all been rigorously checked and were locked from the inside. None of them was broken. And that wasn't just the first floor, the second floor was the same. Also, all of the doors and windows were designed in such a way that they couldn't be locked from the outside. In other words, there was no way that Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui had gone outside, and yet they couldn't be found. Furthermore, they weren't the only ones who had disappeared. Astonishingly, George Aniki had too. Sì, sono attivi, CP. George Aniki had left saying that he was going to get more coffee and had gone downstairs more than an hour earlier. I'd been under the impression that he was having a good conversation with Auntie Eva and the rest, but Auntie Eva, who had been in the lobby the whole time, said that no one had come down. Since all the doors and windows are locked from the inside, it's hard to imagine that they went outside. Nevertheless, 3 humans had evaporated from this barricaded guest house, which had become a perfect locked room. It's hard to imagine any reason why they hide themselves away for a surprise prank in a situation like this. It's probably appropriate to think that they had become caught up in this crime. When Auntie Eva learned that her only son was missing, she went half insane, running from room to room and yelling his name loudly. And Jessica, who had suddenly lost both of her parents, followed suit. Cries of "George, George" and "Mom, Dad" were even now continuing to echo through the guest house. I think George said something about wanting to see Shannon's face. It would be reasonable to imagine that he had snuck out of the guest house and gone to the mansion. However, I don't know about Anton Kraus and Anton Natsui. Maybe they guessed that what happened and went to the mansion to search for him, without even telling Auntie Eva. At this rate, only a matter of time before we start talking about leaving the guest house to search for them. At this point, I'd be in favor of that. We said that shutting ourselves up inside the guest house would be safe, and shut ourselves in this morning as a big happy family of 12 people, and yet there were only 4 people here. In other words, being here does not imply safety. However, there's something even more important that I mustn't forget: the fact that all of the doors and windows were locked from the inside. This is a locked room. How had they vanished from this place? Chi, tra l'altro, un secondino, chi c'è ancora qui? C'è Luke, c'è Fede, Jover e beh, CP ha appena scritto. Solo per sapere se ci siete ancora. Eia, ok, ci sta Jover, ci sono. Ma perfetto, volevo solo sapere se c'eravate. Perché appena abbiamo un secondo vorrei provare a fare un momento discussione. We searched around thoroughly, however we were unable to find any signs of anyone hiding. The three of them had almost certainly been taken outside the guest house.
どうやってでしょう。
Wonder how they did it. You don't think there might be something like a hidden door?
隠し扉。
A hidden door?
扉も窓も。
The doors and the windows are impossible to lock from the outside by construction. Even using a fishing line of some kind, it would probably be impossible with the way they are constructed.
となれば。
In that case, it's probably reasonable to think that they left through somewhere other than a door or a window.
確かに
You're right.
そういう論法にもな
That
るだろ
does
う。
make logical
隠
sense.
し扉が存在しない
No
な
one
んて
can be
断言
sure that no hidden doors exist. Beh, noi sappiamo che non ci
そういう
sono.
発想に飛躍する
However, before leaping to that conclusion, I suspect a much simpler possibility.
申します。
What would that be? For some time, Butler had been opening windows, opening the shutters and checking outside, and repeated this for each window.
この窓は静かだな。
This window sure is quiet. I see. Unlike the other windows, the building's construction means that the wind doesn't blow in this one.
そのようですな。
It appears that
窓
way.
の外は風雨。
Feels strange that no wind or rain comes in, even though there is so much of it in the
南
outside.
條先生
Tornanjo,
窓を
when
開
I
けた時
opened the window just now, did you hear a sound? Huh? No, I did not notice
よ
it.
く油が効いている。
I believe it is well oiled.
つまり
In other
誰
words,
も見ていない
it would be possible to slink out of this window to slink out through this hall window, which no one was
しかもこ
watching.
の窓なら
Furthermore, the wind doesn't blow in through this window, so the air pressure wouldn't cause the curtains or a door to make a
静
sound.
かなもんさ。
Be quiet. Butler leaned out and looked at the ground below. He was searching for some sign that George had jumped down, but at a glance he didn't see any mark lying that on the grass or in the middle of the pouring rain.
こういう窓が
There might be also a window like this on the first
誰に
floor.
も気づかれず
It's possible to go outside without anyone noticing.
しかし扉はおろか。
However, not only the doors but the windows were all locked, and the shutters were even down as well,
こ
correct?
とは可能で
It's impossible to go out, but it would be impossible to lock up.
閉められるぜ。
They can... would be impossible... No. It would be possible to go out, but it would be impossible to lock up. But they can be locked,
こうやっ
see?
て
Just like
母
this.
ちゃん
Click. Butler closed the window and locked it, as though this was perfectly obvious.
まさか
Butler-san, you're saying
最後に
if someone inside locked it at the end, this locked room is as easy as pie. Infatti è quello che volevo dire.
しかしそれ
But
で
that
は
means...
それでは
That means... Nanjo turned pale and shook his head several times, because the thing that Butler said was presenting as a certain truth to him that was frightening even to imagine.
俺の想像したトリ
That's if they used the trick of... I thought of it, of course. However, with this trick, only a very limited number of people can be suspected. He didn't want to say it in front of Nanjo, but after him eliminating Jessica, who had been with him for the whole time, and the only ones who could have done it were Nanjo and Eva.
私はそんなことしませんぞ。
I would not do anything of the sort. Yes, I swear it.
となると
In that case, it would become a bit.
南條先生のアリバイ合戦ってこと
In
で
that case, it would become a battle between Auntie Eva and you for an
俺た
alibi.
ちは二人とも怪しんで
We just have to suspect both of
それ
you
ぞれを別々に
and
監禁すれ
confine
ば
the
いいだ
two
け
of you
の話
separately.
逆に言えばこのトリックは
To say it the other way
想像した多
around,
ければ
it just
有効
might be
かもしれない
effective trick if this might be an effective trick if there were more
これだ
survivors.
け人数が減った
But
状
since
況
our
だと
numbers have shrunk so much, it isn't particularly effective at all. Oh, salve Jabberwock. Tutto a posto, grazie. No, in fact, there's a chance they could dig their own grave with it. E sono morti anche Kraus e Natsui. E Virgilia. It should have been more expedient to make it look like the culprit was outside and to intentionally leave a door unlocked or break a window. If this disappearing act had been taking place midday today, I probably announced this theory with full confidence, but at this stage, I'm not confident at all. What's going on here? What the hell what does it mean? This locked room. You don't think? What is it, Dr. Nanjo? Even if it's just a thought, please say it. Because Dr. Nanjo looked like he was trying to swallow his words despite having thought of something I urged him on. After he refused several times, saying that it was just a foolish idea, he finally said it out loud. Well, you don't think this actually might be the work of the witch? Ridiculous. There's no way witches exist. Sì, per fortuna sì, Jabberwock, siamo stati fortunati. The witch is trying to make her case to us. She must be showing us that she can do things that humans cannot, trying to make us accept her as the witch. To me, this disappearance from the locked room of this entire guest house feels like that kind of message from the witch. I must not think of it. Surely, it cannot mean anything. I'm frightened. As Dr. Nanjo shook with fear, it looked like he was just trying to erase the fearsome thought that he kept imagining, one after the other. When he went downstairs, Auntie Eva and Jessica were enraged, and they were each making a lot of noise about leaving this place and searching for their respective families. With a desire that naturally hits those who can no longer see their family, Auntie Eva and told Dr. Nanjo and me to stay here, but I shook my head and started walking. I have enough of being shut up in here. I'm starting wanting to breathe some outside air. Yeah. And if we're going, let's go right now. I'm sick as hell of staying shut up in this place. Let's go find Mom and Dad and George Neeson as fast as we can. The blood had risen to Jessica's head. I hope it didn't set off her asthma. Anyone who wants to stay behind can do that themselves. But we are going to search outside. What about you, Dr. Nanjo? Gonna watch the place by yourself? Oh, no, please allow me to join you. If the alternative was holding up alone in the guest house whose security was by no means guaranteed, it would be better to be in a dangerous zone as a group of 4 people. Auntie Eva was holding the gun. Moving separately from her was almost like asking to be made into the next victim. Comunque, in this way, the 4 of us decided to leave the guest house. We barricaded ourselves in, saying we'd be much safer if we did, and then lost 8 people. It was almost as though this has been nothing more than a holding cell from which the sacrifices could be carried one after the other. We removed the chain, unlocked the front door, and opened it. It was already pitch black out. While there were some lights outside which dimly lit the pathway, they didn't have enough power to illuminate the darkness that some suspicious person was likely to be hiding in. I'm going. If you fall behind, you're on your own, okay? Still holding her gun, Auntie Eva dashed out without an umbrella. Jessica followed after her. After looking at each other, Dr. Nanjo and I chased after them. What in the world is happening in this mansion, on this island? Since yesterday I've just been shut up in the cousins' rooms in the guest house with the rest of my cousins, so I don't know anything about what's been going on outside. But what has been happening in those places I don't know about, outside the room, in the mansion, on this island. Everything is occurring, everything is proceeding, and everything is ending without my knowing it. Somewhere in my heart I already begun to give up. Most likely, not one of us will see tomorrow morning. When the seagulls cry, none shall be left alive. Umineko Naku. Che ore sono? Sono le 6 e 5 e 3, ok. The Witch's Courtroom. The Witch's Courtroom. Il gazebo. Oh. That mom. Who would do something like this? Ok, quindi li hanno trovati qua, i cadaveri. Jessica woeful voice echoed through the rose garden. Perhaps it was the intuition of a person who lived on this island. After Jessica had looked in the rose garden where Auntie Rosa and Maria had been fallen and seen nothing, she had gone down to look in the arbor next. Normally, the arbor was probably a wonderful location to enjoy tea peacefully while appreciating the roses on a good sunny day. Who knows, maybe even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui had their days where they relaxed in each other and enjoyed tea together here. But in the arbor lay the bodies of Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui. At least they weren't drenched in the rain like Auntie Rosa and Maria had been. But there was no way I could say that out loud to Jessica at that moment. What do you think, Dr. Nanja? Strangulation, I believe. Take a look at this. On their necks there are some distinct markings that something faint was used to strangle them. Right. I doubt that these things were the primary cause of their deaths. The two stake-like weapons decorated with an occult design that were lying on the ground had been found driven into Uncle Kraus' tight area and near Aunt Natsui's calf. When we had found these sticking out of my parents' forehead and chest, we had decided to leave them exactly as they were for the police to preserve the crime scene, but Jessica no longer cared about such matters and immediately pulled the stakes out of their parents' forsaken bodies. So we found all 5 gouged corpses now. The head, chest, stomach, knee and leg. Shit. Fammi vedere, sono segnati quindi adesso. Sì. Corpse discovered in the Rose Garden Arbor. The cause of death is assumed to be strangulation by a cord-shaped object. A stake-shaped weapon was sticking out of his thigh. If not for the epitaph, stakes wouldn't even be needed. What a pain. Questo è uguale. Why does the epitaph even need to be followed in the first place? Game? Thigh. Senza la... c'è scritto qua, aspetta. Thigh, T-H-I-G-H. Coscia. Cravatta si scrive T-I-E. Thigh. Si pronuncia quasi uguale. Tanto aggiorniamo. Natsui Kraus. Però se aveva la colpevole significherebbe che ha ucciso pure dei Yoshi, che però secondo la mia teoria di un po' più di puntate fa doveva essere complice di Eva per l'omicidio di Rosa Maria. Assolutamente, è vero. Ma allora o Eva è una psicopatica Dovremmo vedere se ci sono cose. Se ci sono... Ci serve del testo in rosso. Freaking kill that murderer! Kill him! Everything as far as the 8th twilight is finished now. Is it going to continue on to the 9th twilight? The witches revives and none shall be left alive. Bring it on, damn it! When it says the witch revives, that means that the culprit is going to make his grand appearance, right? Bullshit, no one's going to be left alive. I'll kill him myself. I'll make sure I kill whoever murdered Mom and Dad with my own 2 hands. Jessica howled furiously, her emotion laid bare. To avoid being crushed by her grief, she could do nothing but resist it with anger. We still haven't found George. Jessica-chan and the rest of you, you can stay here if you want. I'll go to the mansion. Eva-san, we mustn't split up. It's dangerous if we do not all stick together. There's nothing we can do for Nissan and his wife. But George may still be alive somewhere. I have no time to waste here. As Auntie Eva screamed this, Jessica glared at her. Auntie Eva had no more time to bother about the dead. She was more concerned for the safety of her only son, who had yet to be seen. Jessica-chan, you should stay by your father and mother's side. I'll make a short trip to the mansion. Butler-kun and Dr. Nanjo, you two can stay here with her as well. After saying this and leaving no time for debate, Auntie Eva rushed out of the arbor. I called out for her to stop, but there was no way she would listen. However, by now, being alone in this situation meant nothing short of death. If we silently watched her leave, it would be the same thing as letting her die. As long as Auntie Eva was unwilling to stop, we would have no choice but to follow her. And, while it may be cruel to say so, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui were already dead, so there was nothing more we could do for them. In the end, we had no choice but to console Jessica and head for the mansion together. Fortunately, Jessica stood up. Perhaps she had been able to draw a line under her grief for the moment, but what had surfaced in its place was an expression like a demon. I'll murder them with my own hands. I'll avenge my parents. Just you wait. Let's go, Butler. If we find whoever did this, don't get in my way. Vediamo, controlliamo se Virgilia è contata come morta. No, Virgilia è ancora qui. I'm definitely going to kill them. I also have my parents to avenge. Sorry, but first come, first served. Yeah, that's right. Let's make mincemeat of that bastard. At my words, Jessica finally seemed to feel like someone who had sympathized. Scusate, l'acqua frizzante mi fa venire I burpi. At my words, Jessica finally seemed to feel like someone who had sympathized with her emotions. Still, she still had that dark expression, but I felt Jessica regain some of her sanity. We took off, chasing after Auntie Eva. Through the rose garden, up the stone steps, running at full speed towards the mansion, whose large, intimidating shadow flashed in the lightning. With this, the epitaph murder had finished the 8th twilight, and now on the 9th twilight the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. I will most likely lose my life, but at the very least I want to burn the truth into my eyes. That was the only thing motivating me to move at the moment. We were able to reunite with Auntie Eva, who was having trouble with the lock to the front door, It seemed that all the blood had risen to Auntie Eva's head. That was probably making her fingers clumsy. It seemed she couldn't even handle the simple task of inserting the key into the lock. Then there was a faint sound, the sound of the door unlocking. Just as though he had waited for all the survivors to unite before opening. It seemed to me as though the malicious mansion was trying to swallow all of the remaining humans at once. The stench that erupted outwards at the instant the door opened, could it really be explained as just a smell? It wasn't just the charred smell from grandfather. I think it may also have contained something like regrets held by so many dead, including our parents and all of the servants. What did it mean as it billowed out, overwhelming us? Was it the cry of the dead telling us not to enter? However, Auntie Eva didn't even flinch at something like that. And we who had to chase after her were forced to step into the mansion despite receiving that message.
George?
George? If you can hear me, answer. Auntie Eva shouted at the top of her lungs. Considering the situation, it's probably far too optimistic to imagine that he is alive. When we also started following Auntie Eva's example and calling out George Aniki's name in loud voices, Auntie Eva found something and stopped walking. She was standing in front of the door to the parlor. What's this? Dr. Nanjo, could you come here for a second? What is it? I had heard from the adults about the creepy magic circles that have been drawn on the doors as such. Mamma mia. I had heard from the adults about the creepy magic circles that have been drawn on doors such as the one to the parlor. Creepy was the only word to describe that thing, which had been scrawled with a deep red paint reminiscent of blood that slowly dripped down. However, that had supposedly been there since this morning. Wondering why Auntie Eva, who had seen it already, would think it odd now, Jessica and I stared at the door. Certainly, I have no memory of numbers such as these being written here. Right, they weren't. The creepy magical text was written here, but not the numbers. From what the two of them said, only a magic circle had been there here this morning. Strano, non ho mai sentito questo genere di scrittura. Only a magic had been. For what the two of them said, only a magic circle had been there here this morning. Here, un po' strano, vabbè. However, right now, there were 8 digits newly written in the upper part of the magic circle. 8, 7, 15, 11, 21. 0, 7, 15, 11, 20. Non so leggere. 0, 7, 15, 11, 29. Ho detto 21 così a caso. E mi sa che ho detto anche 8, 7 all'inizio. Vabbè. 0, 7, 15, 11, 21. I didn't know what it meant. But I didn't even want to imagine the thought process of whoever wrote this. It was drawn with what was probably the same paint as the magic circle, but it was clearly been written very recently. The way it had dried and the condition of the color was completely different from the magic circle part. I'm sure it just has some magical meaning. It's pointless to rack our brains over it. Jessica intentionally spat out words out in an attempt to wipe out how creepy it was. No, fate bene, Giove, scrivetelo giù anche te. Luke, scrivetevi giù questi numeri, eh. It could be a magic square. The idea that a word against evil can reside in a certain form of number play. I'm sure you have all heard of the one where adding all the numbers in each row leads to the same sum. Wasn't that a group of numbers filled inside square? This is just a single row. I don't have a clue what it could mean. What Jessica-san said is probably correct. There isn't any point in us thinking about it deeply. Even though she said that, she probably suspected that it might actually mean something. Using an old receipt or something from inside her pocket, Auntie Eva deftly wrote the number down with a short ballpoint pen. Because of 8-digit numbers would probably be a difficult thing to a little difficult to memorize unless he has some kind of pattern. Allora, lo dico io. 07 15 11 29.
これ日にちとか
Couldn't this be a date or something?
日にち
A date?
何の話
What are you talking about?
いや
Well, it's probably just a coincidence.
俺の誕生日
But
7月
it's
19
my birthday. It's July the 15th.
0715が
Once I thought of that, 0715 might refer to July the 15th.
1129も
I figured that the other half, 1129, stood for November 29th. Maybe that fit perfectly.
なんでバトラーの誕生日
Why
が
would your
こんなとこに
birthday
書い
be
てあるんだ
written in a place like
そ
this?
して
And what's up with November 29th?
俺が知りてえぜ
That's what I wanna know.
まあその
Still, it's probably
たまた
just
ま
a
の偶然だろうけ
coincidence.
どなそう考えたら
When I thought about it, I started to feel a little creepy.
11月29日
Is November 29th someone's birthday or something?
うちの家族は違うぜ
It's not anyone in my family, not Dad or Kirya-san or
も
Enge.
ちろん
And of course, it's not my mom either.
心当たりがあり
Oh,
ま
I
す
cannot think of
金
anything.
蔵さんの誕
I
生
don't
日
remember it. And I don't believe it's Kinzo-san or Genji-san's birthday.
うちの家族も違うわよ
It isn't from my family
ロー
either.
ザやマリアちゃんでも
And
な
it
い
isn't Rosa or Maria's.
うちの家族だって違う
It's not
し
mine either.
カノン君も違
And
う
it
し
isn't
シャノン
Canon
も
or
違う
Shannon.
私使用人
I
の人の
always
誕
give the
生日に
servants
ちゃんと
presents
プレ
on
ゼン
their
トをしてる
birthdays,
からみ
so
んな知ってるけ
I
ど
know it all from them. I know it all for. I know it for all of them,
11月29
but
日
I don't
の
know
誕生日の
anyone who
人
was
間なんて
born
知ら
on
ないぜ
November 29th. Once we started imagining that the 8 digits which we had thought were meaningless were actually 2 dates written together, it really started to look that way. However, its true meaning may be something completely different, or there may be no meaning at all. Anyway, since we don't have any real clue, it's probably pointless to stand around here analyzing it. More important was the inside of the parlor. This morning, behind each of the doors, with a magic circle drawn on them, there had been a body of a victim. And now that a number had been newly added to the door, what new thing had been added in this parlor? When Auntie Eva tried to open it, she felt the resistance of the lock. She immediately took out a master key and put it in the keyhole. As soon as she opened the door, Auntie Eva let out a high-pitched scream and ran inside. That alone was enough to tell us what had happened inside the room. Dr. Nanjo and I looked at each other and I shook my head slightly as we entered the parlor.
ジョージジョージしっかりしてジョージ南條先生早く
George Haneke had fallen alongside Shannon-chan's body. His chest was stained bright red, and from his still open eyes, all of my condolences to Auntie Eva, but I couldn't pick up any signs of life. After moving to take his pulse, Dr. Nanjo shook his head, wordlessly reporting that George Haneke was dead. Brushing him aside, Auntie Eva once again crouched beside George Haneke and started crying at the top of her lungs. With this Haneke's death, one thing had become certain. The murders would not be ending at the 8th twilight. The epitaph was going to be carried out in its complete form, including the 9th twilight, and none shall be left alive. It's really starting to lose the plot. For some reason, Auntie Eva half insane cries and their disappearance actually made me cool down. Vediamo. È stato aggiunto anche George. Human side. Sì. Corpse undiscovered discovered in the mansion's parlor. The murder weapon is assumed to be a gun or a spear-shaped object. In exchange for his soul, the witch granted an 8-digit number, 07 15 11 29. When spoken, a small golden lamp will be opened. Non c'è bisogno di dare nessun indizio. Questo che c'è scritto qui è il piccolo indizio. Dov'è George? Crestfallen and exhausted, I flopped onto the sofa and I plugged my feet on top of the table. Maybe all of these murders had paralyzed my heart. Instead of fright, the stronger emotion I'm feeling is one of complete confusion. Ted and Kiryu-san have died, and starting with the servants, people had been killed off one by one. And at one hell of a pace too. I don't know what time the first murder started, but they say we're probably being killed at a rate about 1 person an hour. We believe that the boat will come for us around 9 tomorrow. There's still a full 12 hours until then. How many more sacrifices to the witch would there have to be for us to survive? With the 4 of us, if one goes each hour, we won't last any longer than 4 hours. It's not clear anymore if we even last until midnight tonight. Yesterday after lunch, we came into this parlor. At that time, that the discussion had turned to the black tea that Auntie Rosa said she bought, we kids started talking about going to take a walk. Maria was fooling around. Didn't Shannon-chan bring us some cookies? She said that Kumasawa-san had baked them or something. I probably have laughed my ass off with if there had actually been a cooked mackerel one mixed in with them. That's right, I never hear Kumasawa's bacha and mackerel jokes again, will I? Oh yeah, if only I remember stuff about Kumasawa. If I only remember stuff about Kumasawa and bachan, that wouldn't be fair to everyone else. Why did Dad and Kiryu-san even go outside? It's not like we die from being without food for a day. So why did gluttony get a hold of them and make them go get food? I bet it was my fearless dad who started complaining about being hungry. Kiryu-san, you were supposed to be the brakes for my reckless dad. Why didn't you stop him? And what about your daughter ENG? She's only 6 years old. You weren't thinking of entrusting her to me, were you? At this point, it's doubtful that even I will be able to leave this island alive. Stop this! Why are you fighting at a time like this? Jessica-san, stop it! Some kind of commotion was interrupting my thoughts. I looked up to see what is happening and saw Jessica and Auntie Eva had started fighting each other at some point. No, maybe I should say that Jessica was grabbing at Auntie Eva. You killed my mom and dad! There's no other explanation. Don't be stupid! How would I know anything about what happened to your parents? Who was downstairs in the guest house? You were! Mom and Dad were in the downstairs lobby along with you. Who was left alive? Only you! Why? Because you're the fucking murderer, that's why, goddammit! You killed Mom and Dad, carried them outside, and then shamelessly locked the door, trying to make it seem it was the freaking witch doing. Then why did George go missing? He didn't come downstairs, you know. So did he disappear from upstairs? Who was upstairs? It was you people who were up there. You knew, didn't you? You knew that George slipped out of the mansion. You brazenly made a face as if you didn't know anything. If you had stopped George, he would... telling you to stop. Jessica-san was in the cousin room the whole time. And Eva-san was also in the downstairs lobby the whole time. And neither of you are responsible for anything. This is only the sadness of you losing your family. The culprit is no one. Is nowhere. It's all the witch's fault, that is all. So you two, please stop hating one another. The witch's fault, is it? No wonder if that's a good way to mediate things for now. Yes, I finally understand the meaning of all the doors and windows having been locked from the inside, where 3 people evaporated from the guest house. This is what they were after, making us think the culprit was inside and causing this ugly mutual hatred. Had to be the culprit's, the witch's goal. But in that case, how had the culprit locked it from the outside? It's certainly true that the master key had been stolen when that group was attacked. But the doors and windows to the guest house had been constructed so that you couldn't lock them from the outside, no matter how hard you tried. So that master key shouldn't even mean anything for the guest house locked room. Jessica and Auntie Eva were turning their sadness at losing their blood relatives into anger at the person in front of them. Dr. Nanjo was trying to step between them, and I sat haphazardly in the sofa staring up at the ceiling, thinking about things that didn't even matter anymore with a worn-out expression. I just couldn't believe that this was the same parlor that had been so warm and pleasant midday yesterday. Just sort of for a short time before the typhoon hit. Oddio, che cazzo è successo? The sudden sound of a gunshot shook me out of my half-asleep trance. Smoke was rising out of the barrel of the gun Auntie Eva held. Jessica was rolling on the floor, covering both of her eyes. Auntie Eva and Dr. Nanjo were looking down at her, shocked. Are you alright, Jessica-chan? Jessica-san! It isn't my fault. It happened because you came at me even after I told you to stop. Hey, what the hell happened? What's going on? Jessica had grabbed Auntie Eva and he had turned into a scuffle. They had then started fighting over the gun Auntie Eva had been holding, and some movement or other caused the trigger to be pulled. I didn't know the details about whether the bullet had grazed her or whether she had been burned by the discharge, but whatever the case, Jessica was covering both of her eyes, screaming in pain and rolling around on the floor. It's alright, calm down. It's not a serious wound, so get a hold of yourself. My eyes hurt. It hurts. I can't see. Dr. Nanjo lent Jessica his shoulder, saying that he would tend to her in the servant room. The servant room in this mansion apparently had a bed and a first aid kit, and was able to function as an infirmary. Damn it! You killed Mom and Dad! I'll kill you! I will kill you! It wasn't me! It wasn't me! Jessica, you are aggravating the wound. Please stop struggling. Come, let us go to the servant room. Jessica still continued to curse Auntie Eva as her parents' murderer. It seems that Auntie Eva couldn't conceal her shock at the fact that she had pulled the trigger, even if it had been an accident. It wasn't my fault. That kid jumped at me. That's why this happened. I didn't kill anyone. Forget that. Kill George. That's right. Who killed George? Vabbè, Eva è partita. Wait a second, Auntie Eva. Don't go off on your own. I didn't know whether it was because Auntie Eva couldn't stand her mistake, or whether it was because she had lost herself to anger at the person who had killed her only son, or whether it was both of those things mixed together. In any case, she ran out into the corridor, yelling, fearful and shouting. I was also worried about Jessica's condition, but anyway, right then, I couldn't leave Auntie Eva alone. Why wouldn't she go off on her own in this mansion of all places? Is she suicidal? Dr. Nanjo took Jessica towards the servant room. I chased after Auntie Eva, dashing into the depths of the mansion. Okay. After sitting Jessica on the servant's room bed, Nanjo told her several times not to rub her eyes and examine the affected area. The barrel had probably been near her eyes. There was a possibility that the flames from the discharge had damaged her corneas. There was no threat to her life, but it would probably be necessary to have a suitable doctor look at her as soon as humanly possible. Nanjo applied an emergency first aid, covering the affected area with gauze and wrapping it with bandage. As a result, Jessica completely lost her field of vision. Now, pay attention. This wound may hurt or itch, but you must not scratch at it or rub it. When tomorrow comes, let us go to the ophthalmologist as soon as possible. That bitch. She really was trying to kill me. If the angle had been just a little bit off, I'd have been killed by now. I'd definitely turn into the police. I'll definitely turn her into the police. Eva-san wouldn't do such a thing. That was an accident. Accident my ass! She killed mom and dad. There's no way any 19th person or witch exists on this island. She's behind everything. She was the only one on the first floor of the guest house. Joe's Nissan must have seen her kill mom and dad, and she killed him to keep him silent. It's the same with grandfather and the servants. I'm sure she snuck out of the family conference last night and killed all of them. If that's the case, then we will know as soon as the police investigate. The police are incredible, you know. There is nothing that cannot be understood by a forensic investigator. There is no need for us to suspect or hate anyone. The police will resolve everything. So, for now, Jessica-san, you should concentrate on resting your body and making things easy on your eyes. If you wrinkle your forehead too much, it will do no good for your eyes. Of course, and nothing for your looks either. Indeed, when Jessica had grown agitated in her verbal abuse of Eva, she had naturally started glaring, and the pressure on her eyes hurted her. Jessica herself soon realized that the more she talked, the more the wound would hurt. And regardless of whether she had overcome her suspicions of Eva, she regained her composure for the time being. She killed him. Oof. Mom and Dad. And Shannon. And Canon-kun. Ecco. Adesso anche lei si è ricordata di Canon. She had heard that Canon had been killed in the chapel. Jessica still hadn't seen his face after he died. Jessica was now less fearful about the fact that she might go blind, and more frightened that the police would carry on Canon's corpse away while she still couldn't see, and that she would have to say her final farewell without being able to see his face. her anger at the culprit, and her sadness at the death of the person she had liked. Those mixed emotions provoked her tear ducts. But right now, tears were actually painful for her, so she wasn't even permitted to leisurely remember the late Canon's face. Jessica could do nothing but to sit on the bed and let her head droop, withstanding the pain. Molto breve questo word end, per fortuna. Well, now it is Eva I must be concerned for. I hope she isn't too shaken by this. Tanto Eva corre per i corridoi urlando George. Letting out a small sigh of relief that Jessica had calmed down for the time being, he stuck his head out into the hallway and took for a sign of the others coming back. Avete presente il meme di qualche mese fa, dove c'era quel signore di colore in giacca e cravatta che tipo compariva in questo slideshow in tutte pose simpatiche così, che mentre sorrideva? Ecco, questo è quello che è appena successo a Nanjo. E questo è quello che è appena successo a Nanjo. Beh, è ora di andare a vedere come sta Eva. Apre la porta, esce, la chiude, si gira. Non ho una staffa però. They met eyes. Nanjo, unable to understand who this person was bewildered for an instant. I heard that people who have lost their powers of sight have zero anti-magic power and zero magic resistance. In other words, you are an isolated pawn right now. Understand what that means? What did you say? There was no possible way that Nanjo could have understood what this person in front of him was. There was certainly no possible way that he could have ever understood what she had just said. Dr. Nanjo, what's going on? Unable to see, Jessica couldn't tell what was going on except by whatever voice she heard. But since she had heard Nanjo say something with an uneasy tone, she tightened up, thinking that something bad might have happened. Oh, stop, please! Oh, please, don't kill me! I have a sick grandchild. I can't die here. For Macy's sake, spare me. Dr. Nanjo. Jessica couldn't do anything except call out from the bed. Judging by the tone of his voice, Nanjo was in the corridor being confronted by someone. And he was scared. There was no doubt that at this very moment his life was being threatened. Oh, don't do it! On the 9th twilight, the witches revives, and none shall be left alive. The witch pointed the end of her gold staff at Nanjo. Even though he didn't know what she was planning to do, Nanjo imagined that she must have been trying to take his life. Who's out there? Answer me! È la prima volta che sentiamo Nanjo urlare di terrore. Bang! A sharp sound echoed. And tapered to a point just as sharp. The elongated tip of the golden staff was stuck straight into Nanjo's forehead. Jessica, who only had her ears to help her try to grasp what was happening, had no clue what was going on. But even so, she was able to realize that with that sound, Nanjo had died. And the person who killed him was now in the corridor right in front of the servant room. Furthermore, she couldn't see. She wouldn't even be able to run away, much less resist. Upon discovering that she was in a life-or-death situation, caught like a rat in the trap, Jessica felt her blood run cold. Oh, Jessica. Poor girl. You injured your eyes. In that case, you can't even escape, can you? I'm gonna play a whole lot with Nanjo's corpse now. When I get bored of that, I'll kill you next and play a bunch more. No, wait. It's not every day you get blinded, right? I won't wait until I kill you. I'll play with you a bunch before I kill you too. So, wait here, shaking for a while, okay? As soon as you try imagining all the ways I'm playing with Nanjo... As soon as you try to imagine all the ways I'm playing with Nanjo's corpse. Struck with fear, Jessica let out a frail scream. She really wanted to scream in a much louder voice, trying to get someone to help her, but she couldn't. When a person is faced with true fear, it claws up their throat. Right now, Jessica could barely even breathe. Help! Help! She searched around with her hands, trying to find some way to escape, but even though she knew this room well, just being unable to see made it look like a locked room of darkness. She bumped into some shelves or something, and some tins of sweets and bottles, and things fell down from them, hitting her on the head. As she was now, even protecting her head to block them wasn't going to working out. She was becoming painfully aware of how very powerless humans become just by losing their sense of sight. Of course, she had no time to appreciate that. She crawled around as best as she could, trying to escape that place, but she kept bumping into things that she didn't understand, getting hit by various falling objects, and it felt to her like the entire room was alive, bullying her and refusing to let her escape. Then she heard footsteps from the presence in the hallway, and then a voice. The person who had probably peered into the room since Jessica was making so much noise. What a racket you're making. Sit on the bed and wait quietly like a lady. 'Cause I'll give you a wonderfully blood-red death costume fitting for a lady of class. Something good enough to make the person who finds you faint. Okay? Just a short while ago, she had sworn that she would kill the culprit if she found them. However, she was now all too powerless. She couldn't do anything except let out feeble screams and crawl around on the floor, bumping her head into the bed and the legs of the desks. Help! Help! Someone! Help me! Dad, Mom, Butler, someone, come! Help me, Canon-kun! No. Allora, fammi vedere a proposito di Nanjo. Già contato come morto. Yes. Corpse discovered in the hallway outside the servant room in the mansion. The murder weapon is assumed to be a gun or a spear-shaped object. One less push, and he too would probably have been home free. But at the last possible moment, she did not permit him that. E anche il povero Nanjo ci lascia. Ah, aspetta, alla cosa sbagliata. Alla cosa del gioco scorso. Quando gli hanno tagliato la gola. Fammelo aggiornare un attimo. Nanjo Dead. Sì, è di episodio 2 questa. Dove sta? Questo, episodio 3. Ok, mo, sistemato. Cazzo, cioè, sono rimasti Jessica, Eva e Butler. Basta. È per forza Eva. A meno che non è Butler il colpevole. O Jessica ha ucciso un angio. Però boh. In the corridor, as though the witch thought of how to toy with Nanjo. As the witch. Aspetta. In the corridor. Ma fuck. In the corridor, as the witch thought of how to toy with Nanjo's life, a single gold butterfly secretly watched the scene from the corner of the hallway. Oh, non insultatemi Eva, eh? It was Beato who had barely escaped with her life once before. The gold butterfly softly returned to human form. Its form was faint and transparent like a lace curtain. Even now, even just the power to hold a human form had been scarce for her. Right next to her, Ronove also appeared. Jessica will probably be unable to survive, although no one was to be left alive since the beginning. She has grown feeling of love for Canon. I have even toyed with that at times. However, I know that now to be something shameful for a witch. Love is the single element. Romantic love is even more pure, more sacred. Though for some reason, you hate it very much, milady. Master told me, magic exists to bring people happiness. I'm sure that I knew that once. And from the moment I forgot, I was no longer a witch. So I lost the qualifications to be Butler's opponent. Milady, I hesitate to ask, but surely you do not intend to rescue Jessica. That would be dangerous. I understand. Even if I save her, she will become a plaything of the witch's banquet when the door of the Golden Land opens. But even so, that would be much more compassionate than the way that person would kill her. The witch's banquet steals lives in a terrible way, but it does not so more than once. It does not toy with life and death. However, she is different. She kills over and over. She kills for fun. There is not even a trace of compassion there. I want to at least save Jessica from that kind of cruel fate. Certainly, by carrying that out, you will probably be praised as a good witch. However, the new Beatrice-sama already views you as hostile, milady. If you were to be seen by her again, you are aware you have no way to escape this time. When I reunited George with Shannon, I finally understood what a witch is and what magic is. I am a witch. I must be a witch. And I must be acknowledged by Butler as his opponent, and I must make him accept me as a witch this time at last. The road to that goal may be long and difficult. However, if I do not take a step forward here and now, I cannot call myself a witch. I understand your feelings, but how do you plan to rescue her? There are not many forms of magic that your body is capable of now, milady. Did you not have to borrow George's power even back when you revived Shannon? For that very reason, I may be able to save Jessica at least. Right now, she is begging for Canon to save her. If I can borrow that power of that emotion, I may be able to knock one of the doors of Hades once again with my magical power. I'm sure you will be able. However, you would use up all of your magical power. If you were to be spotted by the new Beatrice-sama, you would truly be without a method of escape. I am no longer your butler, milady. Understand that I cannot assist you if the situation worsens. I know, by now. I have toyed with and taken more lives than I can count. So I may not be able to compensate for the sin except by saving the same number of lives. I have nothing to lose in the first place. I am just a golden butterfly who has passed in its name and magic power on, who is no longer accepted as a witch. What about Butler-sama? You are partway through a game with him. He said that he would wait until you return, milady. Is it alright for you to expire here? You have a duty to return to the seat across from Butler-sama, milady. For that very reason, if there is a life that only I can save, I choose to save it. And I will be accepted as a witch. I must be a witch. If this is a test, it is a very childish one, unfitting for the evils I have committed until now. Go, hide yourself, Ronove. Watch what may be the final magic of a single butterfly who used to be called a golden witch. Certainly. Please show me magic that will not disgrace the name of the Golden Witch. I pray that it will not be your last. Go, my friend. If there is enough ink, pen the story of my foolish life and hand it to some fool attempting to walk the same path. Farewell, Ronove. Kanon-kun, where are you? Where are you? Help me. Milady, I am always waiting by your side. Kanon-kun? Jessica thought that she had just heard Kanon-kun's voice. She looked around with her unseeing eyes, but of course there was no way for her to see anything. On the contrary, that action caused her head to hit the desk again. Milady, I will help you. You're alive! This time she thought that she had heard his voice clearly. Jessica jumped up in surprise, banging her head against the desk once again. Milady, please calm your heart and listen. Unfortunately, I am not alive. I have already died. However, that witch came to me to tell me of your peril. Then she gave me only a short period of time to help you, milady. Please, calm your heart even more. If you do, my form will become visible even to you, milady. Jessica obeyed those words. She chased all idle thoughts from her head and relaxed her breathing. Her heart actually felt like it was going to explode after hearing the voice of the loved one who she thought was dead. She resisted that with all her strength, When she did, she could feel that Kanon-kun really was right in front of her. Even though she was unable to see, somehow she was still able to sense him clearly. Can you see me, milady? Yeah, I can see you. I can definitely see you, Kanon-kun. I only exist as a spirit, so I cannot touch you, milady. I cannot do anything except talk to you like this. I'm a weak existence which can do nothing more than that. But I should be able to be of some aid to you, milady. Just words, that's all. I can't touch you, Kanon-kun. I'm now even more fragile than smoke from a candle. So much so that if one of the living such as you were to touch me, I would be wiped away instantly. So please, don't try to touch me. Because I'm also only my desire to touch you, milady. More importantly, milady, please listen well. The new golden witch is the owner of a cruel heart. She will surely try to make you meet with a horrible end. You must escape from this room and hide. How? I can't see anything. Quiet. I will be your eyes, milady. Please move in accordance with my instructions. First, crawl 3 steps from there and then stand up. You are currently under the desk, milady. If you stand here, you'll hit your head. That was under the desk. I got it. 1, 2, 3. Standing up. Well done. Next, please turn towards 9 o'clock. Yes, well done. This is pretty embarrassing. Are you alright? Does your wound hurt? Oh, I'm fine. What next? Jessica thought of it. Thought that it was just a dream. She didn't want to. Jessica thought that if this was a dream, she didn't want to wake up, and if she were allowed to, she would have wanted to take off the bandage covering her eyes and see him. However, if she did that, surely Kanon would vanish like a frail candle smoke, just like he himself had said. She was afraid of that, so she satisfied herself with just being able to hear his words once more, repressing her desire to see him, to hold him. So what hurt her eyes now were tears of gratitude. Tears of gratitude for the god or else the witch who had given her this miraculous moment. It's okay. If we kept talking like this, we won't be noticed by her. Won't our voices be heard? I have erected a stealth barrier. If you don't make any loud noises or speak noisily, no one will notice. That is why no one can notice my presence. I don't really get it, but anyway, we'll be okay as long as we stay quiet, right? What should I do next? Please, walk 10 steps, slowly, in the direction you're facing. You will touch the sofa. Please, continue along that. Do it slowly. Stay calm. Believe in my words. Sure. It's weird. Even though it was so scary not being able to see, when you're with me, Kanon-kun, it isn't scary at all. Yes, that is the sofa. Trace it to the left while advancing slowly. There is a table just to the left. Be careful not to bump into it with your shins. It was a very, very peculiar and magical team effort. Even though she would be killed in an instant if she was noticed by the terrible witch, there was no fear in Jessica's heart right then. She was being protected and guided by Kanon, who she had thought she would never be able to meet with again. It was probably only a momentary miracle, but even so, Jessica was deeply grateful for it. If she hoped for too much, If she hoped for too much, she was sure that he would disappear. So, in order not to break this transient miracle, and in order to engrave this moment into her heart for all eternity, she slowly continued to walk, obeying Kanon's voice. Alright. If you walk 10 more steps, you will exit the servant room. Then, please turn to face 9 o'clock and keep walking very slowly. Put your hand on the wall to your right and keep following on that. I will take you to a safe room. If I go there, will you leave me again, Kanon-kun? Kanon didn't answer, but even his lack of answer was enough to let her know that that was the truth. Then, no, I don't want to go. If you stay here, you will be killed by the witch. That's alright. If I'm killed, I can go to the world where you are, Kanon-kun. Milady, please be reasonable. For the dead such as myself, the human world is too bright and painful, so I cannot stay for long. So, milady, with the time I am allowed, please permit me to guide you to your safe place. And after that, I will stay with you until my time runs out. Is that the best you can do, Kanon-kun? Yes. And in exchange, I will stay by your side for every second I can, milady. The whole time I will be with you, and I will talk with you, milady. Talk about what? What would you like me to talk about? Anything you're willing to. Well then, I will tell you the story of a cowardly servant boy without courage. About a foolish and pitiful boy who felt love for a lady as radiant as the sun, and who, even though those same feelings were confessed to him, lost his cowardice, and in the end was not able to be true to himself while he still lived. Yeah, then I'll tell one too. The story of a cowardly girl who couldn't muster her courage to keep telling the boy she loved just how much she loved him. And about how God gave her a miracle to be reunited with that boy. And how, when she was given one more chance to muster up her courage, she did. I also want to hear that. So for that reason as well, let us go to a safe place. If I could be with you, Kanon-kun, I would walk however long, however far. I don't need eyes anymore. If you told me to step forward, I would even step off a cliff. Thank you. Well then, milady. Let us go. The first 10 steps. No, not like that. Not unless you call me Jessica. Understood. Well then, Jessica. Take the first 10 steps. Yeah. Un pochino. Quietly, Jessica and Kanon snuck slowly out of the servant room. Directly around the corner, the witch could be seen cruelly looking down upon Nanjo's corpse, but the witch did not even notice their presence. However, Ronove, who was waiting at her side, met Kanon's eyes. Kanon thought, oh no, grimacing and blocking Jessica with his back. However, Ronove did not inform his master. As though it had been his imagination that he hadn't spotted him in the first place, he pretended to know nothing. No, maybe he did appear to chuckle. Ronove te ama. From a finger one of Ronove's hands, which were joined behind his back, a small gold butterfly appeared, flying in front of Kanon as though guiding him. It was undetectable by the master he served. Kanon was surprised at the magic that the butterfly held, because it was far more powerful than the stealth barrier Kanon had. He may not have known, but that power had originally been Ronove's. An imitation of that had been given to Kanon by Kinzo, and that was what Kanon was using now. Ha ha! Quindi, come posso dire? Sì, quindi Kinzo ha messo il potere, un'imitazione del potere di Ronove dentro Kanon. Bel pezzettino di lore. As that butterfly of stealth magic scattered the gold scales, it grew smaller bit by bit. It probably wouldn't last long, but without a doubt even that would buy them enough time to get far away from the cruel witch.
さあお嬢
Alright,
様
milady,
その壁に
let's follow that wall and keep walking. On and on and on. Yeah.
と一緒なら
If I can be with you, Kanon-kun, I'll keep on walking on and on, as far as you want me to go. Led and protected by the small gold butterfly, the two were separated by the wall between life and death, slowly walked away towards the end of the corridor. There was no way that the evil witch would have any magic to notice their flight. Until they had already disappeared down the other end of the corridor, the witch never noticed that Jessica had vanished. By the time the gold butterfly that Ronova had cast evaporated completely, Jessica had reached the parlor. Even though she had been able to make it this far in no time, if she had been able to see, and as she was now, it had been a long even though she would have been able to make it this far in no time if she had been able to see, as she was now, it had been a long adventure.
さあお嬢様
Now, milady,
客間にたどり着き
we
ました
reached the
こ
parlor.
れからお嬢様
I will now take you to the
窓
bundle
際
of
のカーテン
curtains
の
by the
束のと
window.
ころまでお連れしその中に隠
If
れ
you
た
hide in there,
きっと安全
you'll surely be safe.
カーテンの中か
Inside the curtains? Not bad.
私も昔
I used to hide in there a lot long ago. Beatrice-sama! Canon called the witch's name. Jessica looked around in surprise, but being unable to see, she obviously couldn't find the witch. Beato had appeared once again in a faint form. Canon squared off against the evil witch, but Beato's expression was soft and actually pitying.
どういう気まぐれで僕を
I understand what kind of
くれたのか
whim. I don't understand what kind of whim drove you to revive me. Your feelings elude me.
気まぐれにす
It was a whim and nothing more. No. This is how witches should be.
るわらわがそれを
It took me 1,000 years to realize that. That is all a foolish tale. Who's there?
お嬢様お静かに
Milady, be
彼
quiet.
女は魔女
She is the witch,
僕
Beatrice.
をお嬢様
I
に
am
もう
in
一度
her
会わせ
debt
てくれ
because she let me be with you one more time.
魔女
The witch, Beatrice.
わらわのことな
I
ら
am
どうでも
unimportant.
それより
I suggest you instead make haste in hiding that girl in the shadows of the curtains.
そなたに
You probably do not have much time left.
ジェシカと最後
You should spend it in your final conversation with Jessica.
カーテンの束
A secret meeting inside a bundle of curtains.
そなたの
You two have quite a sense of style.
あの
Thank you, Beatrice.
ありがとうベアトリーチェカノン君に会わせ
Thank
て
you
く
for
れて
letting me be with Canon-kun. Jessica didn't know where Beato was, so she said that while facing the wrong direction. Perhaps because she found that funny, Beato snickered. I will now leave this room to the pair of lovers. Evil witches have no need for tales of love, you see. Allow me to retreat.
ベアトリーチェ様ありがとうございます
Beatrice-sama, thank you very much. No need to thank
こん
me.
なのでは
You know well that something like this is enough to compensate for all the evil
そ
I've
なたが
done.
よく知っておろう
良き魔女には感謝
You
を選
give me,
別とします
I give my gratitude to good witches as a parting
今
gift.
までがどうであ
I
る
don't care about what happened before now,
そして
or what will happen in
こ
the
れからが
future.
どうであるかは知らんしかし
All I know is that
今
in
この
this
瞬
very
間
moment,
あなたは間違
you
い
are
ない
without a doubt,
良き魔女だ
a good witch.
おべっかが過ぎる
You flatter me, furniture.
次に会うときは
Next time we meet, I may be an evil witch who will not betray your expectations.
それで
And with that, farewell. Beato left the parlor and closed the door, and mastering the last of her remaining magical power, she sealed the door. The fact that those two had escaped into here would eventually be noticed, but now the ninth twilight have been reached. No matter how much they struggle, their inescapable fate had already been decided. However, until that final moment, they should be permitted the time to speak with each other about their love. The witch poured out all of her magical power to protect their time together, so that no one would be able to defile their time alone together until the final moment. Just then, Beato perceived something. Her body had been detected by a magical searching technique. The cruel-hearted witch furniture had sniffed this place out. So, boorishness is the witch's way of doing things. To think that she didn't even intend to allow the two young ones to speak to each other of their own love. 45. Data received. Comparing target confirmed to be predecessor Lady Beatrice. Analyzing parlor defensive wall. Multi-layer defense wall. 72 layers. Attack barrier and magic reactive armor. Sniping into the parlor is impossible. Data link to 410. 410. Data received. Then we just gotta... the predecessor Sama first. Great, Lady Beatrice. Permission to fire, please. Go ahead and shoot. Oh, and avoid the vital areas. There's something I want to ask that old hag. 410. Firing. The Sister Sister's gold bow released a golden snake. It crawled down the corridor, starting from the front of the servant room, drawing a soft serpentine curved trajectory as it made it for the parlor. And struck through Beato's chest. Oh, prison! Gold butterflies gathered, and the cruel witch showed herself there along with her furniture. Predecessor Sama, you will not get away with your obstructing us a second time. I never thought I would. Still, the Sister Sister really have gotten rusty. To think that they failed to bring me down. And twice at that. Ronove spoke in a manner fitting for the witch's butler. As she pushed her pain aside, Beato grinned and spoke back. My apologies, Predecessor Sama. We will order to avoid vital areas. As soon as there's an order, we can pierce you at any time. Through your ear holes, your belly button hole, any hole you like. The gold snake that had shot through Beato grew even longer, drawing a helix like a morning glory vine, and awaited its next order. It was ready to pierce any vital spot as soon as the merciless witch told it so. For what reason would someone like you, who is even more brutal than me, make them avoid my vital areas? New Beatrice. I wanted to ask you. I don't know what trick you used to escape, but we were under the impression that we have taken you out, you know? What is this even through you? What is it that even though you could have escaped by hiding, you took the risk of appearing again? It can be that you just came back just to protect. It can't be that you came back just to protect those two young people, surely. Well, who knows? And just a second ago, why you'd do something as soft as reviving the lovers and reuniting them? The more I hear about you, the more I learn that I don't even reach up to your feet as an incarnation of evil. If you're like that, why did you suddenly start acting so mildly? That's what I wanted to ask. Because I am brutal, I am fickle. How could there be any meaning in asking that? Sister Sisters saw her. No, sue her. Cucire, sewing kit. Allora, sue her. When she ordered that the gold snake that was curled in a helix was and suspended in space. When she ordered that the gold snake that was curled in a helix and suspended in space moved as fast as a real snake going after its prey and pierced Beatus multiple times from the front and the back, its golden tail drawing an X shape. And as the ruthless witch had ordered, it drew a cross-stitch through Beato's chest. The gold thread made a squeaking sound and tormented Beato. Rather than the gold snake aiming for its prey, it waited for orders in midair as if it was a sewing needle ready to sew Beato. And it comes to you, there's no way it was a whim. I heard about you, and I've learned. You are such an incarnation of evil that I don't even rise up to your feet. I thought I was truly a fitting successor to you. But you've always been in the way. You always say warm, pleasant things that shock me. What changed you? You explored the depth of evil for 1,000 years. So I let you live just to find out what happened that overturned that millennium. If you want to know, I suggest you to spend 1,000 years finding out. Fammi vedere quest'art, tra l'altro. Sue her. Beato's chest was once again sewn with a golden cross stitch. It tightened once again, squeezing fresh blood from Beato's chest. The intense pain it caused ran in conflict with its beauty to the eye. You might actually be another one of those types who disappear when they die and don't leave a corpse. So I'll kill you slowly. But if you answer my question honestly, I'll kill you gently. I'll give you a splendid, gorgeous death, perfect for my predecessor. I'll sink you in a coffin filled with water and roses. Isn't that wonderful? And you still won't talk about the reason for your change of heart? Sì, è lo stile anime, non pensarci troppo su questo. Not answering what she's asked is one of the pleasures of being an evil witch. Sue her twice. Of course, you don't know the answer. After all, that way I get to torture you. The endless magic, the infinite magic, truly is wonderful. When you think about it, this world is finite in every way. The infinite cannot exist in the human world. Because God is infinite, he deprived the human world of all infinite so he could look down upon it. So in other words, the power of infinite is the power of God. A wonderful power where the more you play with it, the more fun ways of playing you find. You used that power as you pleased for 1,000 years and went on a rampage. Why are you having a change of heart only now? Change of heart. Don't tell me you just miss it now that you've handed it over to me. Porca puttana. How could you miss it? The endless magic is not magic as you believe it to be. True magic is in a deep abyss that you most certainly cannot reach. And you realize what that is? What is it? Wander about for 1,000 years without realizing that, you foolish witch. Sue her 3 times this time. they continuing embroidering Beato's chest with the golden thread. It tightened even more, causing Beato more and more pain. Well, whatever. I'm not the least bit interested anymore in what deep understanding some good as dead hag has come to. I'm bored now, so I'll kill you quickly. If I kill you, the barrier to the parlor will be undone. Then I'll torture Canon and Jessica to death a whole bunch of times. Being able to have the two lovers as my toys at the same time sounds fun, right? Kill her. Without missing by a millimeter, the gold sewing thread shot through Beato's heart. That immense pain was worse than all of the pain before that put together. Beato finally remembered the actual feeling of dying, which she had forgotten for over 1,000 years. But she couldn't die. She must not die. If she dies, the two in the parlor would be handed over to the brutal witch, so she definitely cannot die. She resolutely refused to die. New Beatrice, I have a request. The lovers' meeting between the two in the parlor is to be short. In the amount of time an hourglass can measure, Canon will probably dissipate to Hades. Would you please allow them that much time? No way! Tearing apart the two who love each other is fun, isn't it? You are the one who said it, so I want to try it. In that case, I cannot allow you to enjoy that pleasure. It is fun tearing lovers apart. Right? I'm sure it must be, right? So don't get in my way. Sue her more. Sue. 410, understood? The merciless gold sewing needle sew its golden thread through Beato's heart over and over again. However, no matter how much it tightened, that heart did not stop. This isn't nearly enough. You have to do better than this to kill me. What are you doing? Make this old hag stop talking. Kill her quickly. We are. Even though we've sewn her heart in place several times, her heart won't stop. Are you immortal? Of course not. I've handed the endless over to you. There is a limit to how many more times my heart can beat. However, if by making it beat just one time extra, I can give the two in this room even slightly longer to themselves, I'll continue that meager resistance for all eternity. Sue! Keep sewing until her heart stops beating. Why doesn't she die? It is impossible! Her heart is sewn in place, so why doesn't it stop? Fine then. We'll make the heart explode from the inside. How pitiful. And you could have died cleanly if you hadn't resisted us. The gold needle and thread made round trips over and over again as they spoke, and still Beato didn't expire. The barbarous witch was at last starting to turn pale at how unnatural it was. What in the world are you? You probably cannot understand.
わからぬだろう。わらわ
Even I didn't understand. But still, somehow or another, it seems that this is true magic. In other words, I have now become it.
本当の
I have
魔女
become
なった
a true witch. Center of explosion stabilized in heart interior. Primed and ready. Detonate! There was a deafening sound, and the gold leaf and flutter of gold butterflies were scattered around in the area. Beato's chest had opened wide from the inside, and from that gold butterflies and gold leaf erupted, staining the surrounding area gold. Then Beato's body crumpled. Like a puppet whose strings had been cut, she crumpled and sank to the floor. However, in the air, a gold heart tied by a gold thread floated and continued to beat. What the? Monster! Certo, Chippy. When the Chester sisters saw that, they fell on their behinds in shock. Somehow, even though Beato had become nothing more than a heart, he still kept beating, continuing to protect the barrier to the parlor. It was an immeasurably immense It was an immeasurably immense magical power, impossible to measure. In other words, infinite and endless. I am the endless witch, right? Why is this old hag still alive after all of this? Chester sisters, smash that heart. Quickly. It's impossible. My apologies. We cannot do it. It is probably impossible. No number of people could crush that heart. Much less the likes of the soldiers who serve under his highness the Dragon King. In that case, the endless witch like me should be able to crush it, right? My power is God's power. I am afraid to say that your power cannot leave a single scratch on Beatrice-sama's endless nature. Just what do you mean by that? In the same way there is no light without knowledge of shadows, there is also no endless without knowledge of the limited. Before Milady's Beatrice's true endless power, your flimsy magical power is very, very lacking. What is this supposed to mean? The cruel witch stepped back in surprise. It was more transparent than a lace curtain, but Beato's form, no, Beatrice's form, was still standing there. Even after taking on this wretched appearance, she would not allow evil through that door. At that time, a shadow just as faint as Beatrice stood behind her. It was canon. Beatrice-sama. Thank you very much. I will not forget this favor you have done for me. I shall hear those words again when the number of my favors surpasses the numbers of grievances I have caused. Are you done? Yes. Truly. Thank you very much. And Beatrice-sama, you have also done enough. Please, be at peace. Is that so? So this is enough. What's going on? Why are you guys calling the predecessor's egg Beatrice? Beatrice is my name, right? Should be my name as the new golden witch and endless witch, right? What go? How dare you assume Beatrice-sama's name? I'm afraid to say that the name of Beatrice-sama should be taken by the person who can be crowned as the endless witch. By now, the term predecessor refers to you. What did you say? Farewell, Canon. I'll meet you soon anyway, in a new nightmare.
新しい夜の悪夢に
In the nightmare of a new night, I will once again be your companion,
ベアトリチェ様の
Beatrice-sama.
これで
With that,
失礼いたします
if you would excuse me. Oh, Canon. Canon form grew faint and he disappeared into thin air. After watching him go, Beatrice's form also grew faint and before disappearing, it slumped over onto the floor. Then there was a splat. The golden heart which had been floating in midair had lost its sparkle, became blood-stained flesh and fallen to the ground. How frail it was. It was ragged and full of holes, but until now it had sparkled so much and had continued to beat forcefully. That heart still barely managed to beat. However, it was only a matter of time before it stopped. Beatrice, whose form had become fragile and faint like incense smoke, lay on the floor, sadly watching her own heart. There the cruel witch could be seen. How are you, endless? Face reality. You're collapsed into a heap on the floor, aren't you? Endlessness without limits. That's a endlessness with limits. That's a contradiction. Endlessness with limits. That's a contradiction. It cannot possibly exist. This is the limit of your magic. The limited is inferior to the infinite. Beatrice no longer had the energy even to respond. No, in fact, it was doubtful whether the words of the cruel witch even reached her ears. If you're the real endless witch, try standing up. Well, you can't, can you? Why do you think you can't stand? It's because you aren't an endless witch. The merciless witch poked Beatrice's heart with her fingernail. Beatrice had no words with which to respond to that provocation. However, instead of words, she returned a single expression. It looked insultingly only to the cruel witch. Because she had gently curved her mouth and smiled. Footsteps were approaching that place. There was no way she could mistake them. That boisterous noise of shoes against the ground was the sound of Butler's footsteps. Butler, is it? For all my talk, I've ended up like this. I've been trying to become the true witch you talked about. In my own way. Yeah, I was watching. Hey, have I now been able to become a witch? Have I earned the qualifications to become your opponent? No good. Butler said that unbelievably bluntly. Taking a painful breath, Beatrice saw that and sneered at herself as though she should have expected it. Is that so? Seem I still have an uphill struggle ahead of me on the road of becoming a true witch. However, I will not surrender, just like you never surrendered to my torture. I will definitely become a true witch and be accepted as your opponent. Yeah, it's no good. It's no goddamn good at all. You aren't my opponent. The brutal witch raised her foot high. Below it was Beatrice Frail's heart. Die, you old hag. See if you can show how endless you are after you've been mashed to bits. I am the witch. I am the golden witch, Beatrice. Bene. E con questo concludiamo.